This has been a idea that I wanted to do for a while, but I haven't really made a list, on this PC yet. It's still kind of recently made, so I figured I might as well assemble a list of my favorite songs. And this is not necessarily, you know, put it to the grave or some shit or like set in stone that it's my, permanent fixtured favorite list. It's more so a list that I kind of, assembled, put together in, I would say, a day. And I was pretty proud of the results. I kind of got my sheet next to me, that's why my face might be a bit lit up, and I found my lamp. So there's actually some lighting in this video for once. That's the first on this channel, I believe. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to go through my favorites because there's just a lot of music, like you can see, like behind me, that inspires me, that I like to talk about, that I kind of carry with me all the time. Like not the actual physical vinyl, but Spotify, YouTube, my AMVs. If you don't know what that means, it basically means like animated music videos or like anime music videos. And there's also a lot of that on this list. It's not necessarily what makes or breaks the song for me, but it's just kind of like a fun gimmick. It's like a fun bonus that you get with the song. And sometimes I find some really like funny combinations or like some really fun mixes that's kind of it kind of makes it more fun to get back into the song because there's like a music video with it. So some of these have those AMVs. They're just in my document. And if you don't necessarily care for anime or you're like, oh, I don't need that weeaboo bullshit, then you can just copy the song title and the artist name, and you can just copy paste it onto YouTube or Deezer, SoundCloud, Spotify, whatever you're using, and you can find it there. It's not math or something in this day and age. You can probably figure that out, but the link is basically just a fun music video with it that comes with like AMV. So that's not all the songs have that because I have some really obscure shit on there that no weeaboo would ever listen to. So some of them have AMV, some of them don't. If you are gonna check that out, be advised that they might contain that. So you're not clicking on it and be surprised about that. If you can like watch around my room, then you can kind of notice that. So just a heads up. So yeah, I kind of just want to start out. These are not particularly, like I said, set in stone, not my definitive top 100. These are just my current favorite songs. Not necessarily from last year or this year, because like we're only 2 days into this year, so that would be kind of crazy. I'm not really a person that is into like recent music. I don't really, check out music nowadays. I sometimes like I checked out the new Blood Incantation album and I didn't really care, And that's kind of how I am to most music of today. I'm still open to new music, but I haven't really heard something that impressed me lately. There are some albums on there or some songs that are, I think, there's one song on here from 2011 from my head and one from 2020, I believe. So those are somewhat recent, 15-year-old ass song on there. I call that recent, but recent enough, I suppose. So the first song, I kind of wanted to start out with a divisive pick because I know that this band is kind of love 'em or hate 'em, but I love the early stuff. Like I really just love that gritty, foul sound that this band has. But they, after I would say 2005 or something, they just kind of lost the plot, and they haven't really been good since. There are some albums here and there where I'm like, oh yeah, they kind of got that the dark tone back that I love, but it hasn't really been on the same level from the 90s stuff. And when I mentioned the 90s and grimy shit, you kind of have to think about nu metal. And nu metal is it's probably the most overhated metal genre. And if you ask me, I personally love nu metal. I love the shit out of that stuff. Linkin Park, Slipknot, some Disturbed. I'm not a fan of all that stuff. But, bands like that, Deftones, of course, for the incels. But, I think that on an album basis, I still would probably listen the most to Linkin Park because they have the most consistent albums from the nu metal phase. But as far as like the darkest, grittiest tone, you gotta have to go with Korn. And picking my favorite Korn song was always kind of, it's not the easiest thing because they just have a lot of albums. But it has to be from like the early stuff, like the first 4 or 5 albums. So I went with Falling Away From Me, which is kind of a continuation song after, how was the song called again? Like they're literally the most popular song. The ba ba boo ba ba bia. That song where David does the scatting. The if I do get comments, they're gonna kill me. But I can't remember the song for the life of me. That's how much I listen to Korn. But yeah, I want to say "Falling Away From Me," but that's the song I picked. "Freak on a Leash," yeah, that's it. "Freak on a Leash," but that's not my favorite from them. That might be in my top 10, but my favorite is "Falling Away From Me" because I just love that kind of dark, gritty tone that they go for, and if you watch the video as well, there's basically just this girl that's like getting abused by her dad, and she has to like lock herself away in a room to get away from the abuse. It's kind of fucked up, but it's also like just really gritty. The bass tones on that song are amazing. The intro sequence where you hear a few like guitar taps here and there. It's a pretty phenomenal atmosphere. I just wish that more Korn was like that, but as far as favorites go, I think like I said, consistent basis. I still would prefer Linkin Park on an album basis. But as far as like the best nu metal song, I would have to go with "Falling Away From Me." It just has the darkest tone. It has the grittiest, grooves. It has the most just catchy hooks that you can get out of nu metal. Like Korn just is. They're basically just the blueprint for that sound. Like if Korn didn't exist, you wouldn't have nu metal. And most people would be happy with that because they hate nu metal for some reason. But I love nu metal. So, like, I have to, appreciate Korn because they're, yeah, falling away from me. But they're just the most essential bands. Like, you wouldn't, they're basically the Black Sabbath to their genre. Like, if you don't have Korn, you wouldn't have Slipknot, you wouldn't have, Linkin Park, you wouldn't have Limp Bizkit, you wouldn't have Disturbed, all these great bands that everyone loves. So I'm like, yeah, of course you need Korn in your life. So I was kind of like, yeah, this is the grittiest, darkest song that they have. And I just absolutely love the breakdowns on it, the bridge, the singing, just the entire mood of the song is just amazing, one of a kind. And yeah, I have a link with that as well from Tokyo Ghoul, which I think is a garbage anime, but with the music and with the AMV in it, I think it's pretty fun. So you should check it out. Another AMV that I have with this song, which is a fun bonus, but it doesn't make the song necessarily, but it's just a fun gimmick, is my next pick, which is Bleed by Meshuggah. And I'm not a huge Gent fan. I'm just gonna say it right out of the gate. I'm not a huge Gent fan. I think that most of that stuff sounds really repetitive, really samey, just very one-dimensional, and people usually mention with Meshuggah that the drumming is so impressive. They're so tight. They're so technical on stage, but they just kind of play one riff. So I don't really see the appeal in that. But I always kind of checked out this song in particular because I really love the grooves on it, just how consistent it is, just how tight the musicianship is. And it's kind of hard to appreciate Meshuggah when you're just listening to a whole album. Like I listened to Nothing and my mind would just draw a blank because I was just listening to them pounding their guitars and drums into the ground, and I'm just kind of like, I don't see the appeal in this. It's like watching two rabbits fuck for 90 minutes. I just don't get it, or like 60. Like, who gives a shit? But, when you're just listening to this song for 8 minutes long, it's the catchiest, it's the grooviest. I'm like watching this music video with a show called Kara no Kyokai, which is Garden of Sinners, but which hangs like above me. Which is like one of my favorite movies. I love the shit out of that movies. And you basically have part 5, I would say, where you have this main character called Shiki Ryogi, which is probably my all-time favorite anime character. And there was this scene or this moment where the song would just eclipse like 6 minutes or something, 6, 7 minutes. The part where they're just jamming out, and the singer gets really growly and aggressive, and it sounds like they're actually just pounding your face into a bloody pulp. Like that part, like the most amazing aggressive part in Bleed. And you have this moment in the video where you get to that part, and this character Shiki is just beating the shit out of everyone. And I'm like, fuck yes, yeah, she is killing people. Meshuggah is playing their shit, and I'm just I'm just fanboying. I'm like, fuck, man, that's so good. And for one of those reasons, I also grew a new appreciation for Bleed, because before that, I was just watching like two naked babies or something, or like demons crawling out of a womb and just beating the shit out of someone else. I'm like, oh, that's cool, I suppose, or like out of a normie. And I was just kind of bored. I was like, it's cool. It was shocking, but after the first time I've seen it, but I can't watch enough Kara no Kyokai. That shit just doesn't get old, especially with this song. I'm like, yes, this is made for each other. So I just appreciate it more now, and I'm always into a groove with it, especially the. I also really love the live version of the song. I think that the live version, the how was it called again, the Ava deck track or something. I'm butchering the fuck out of that, but I'm not gonna look it up because we still have 98 songs to go. But I really love the song, and I think it is the peak of gent. I mean, it's I think the only really mainstream gent song. So that kind of speaks for itself. Maybe a normie pick, but I don't really give a shit. It works for me. It works great on with working out, with relaxing, meditating, basically all that stuff. It works out. So I'm a fan. And now for something a bit less normie or mainstream. I don't think that most people know this band, this artist, but this is a really like eccentric and interesting kind of, what would you call it? Like a producer. I'm never sure how I'm supposed to call electronic artists, but like just this electronic artist, I suppose. Yeah, just like that. Who's called Amon Tobin? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but Amon Tobin is basically kind of an underground Brazilian drum and bass artist, and I really just love his composure. I love his compositions, his mixes, his beat switch ups are really unique and very impressive to me. So the song that always kind of stood out to me, at the moment at least, is Nova, which is the closing song of his second album, I believe. You're kind of killing me with the album title right now, but I really love his second album. That's one of my favorite albums. And the song Nova is basically just like this very relaxed, very just groovy, chilled out lounge track. It sounds like jazz, bit of R&B, bit of pop, bit of electronic fuses. Like there's just so much depth and density in that song that it never really gets old for me to listen to it. It's always just fun for me. It's always just fun to throw on, and I just love the overall sound of it. I think it's an amazing sound. So for that reason, I always play it, and I'm always very satisfied when I finish the album with Nova. I think it should work. It did kind of sometimes my mic just spasses out like that. Like you move it a bit, the cable, and it just mutes itself automatically. So you might have not heard me say something there, but my mic was tripping. If this like red button glows, it means like it mutes itself because the cable might be disconnected, some garbage like that. Yeah, I'm not the most technical guy here, but we're working on it, like Jay Dilla would say. But he's not on this list. Funny enough, I do like him though, but overrated. Yeah, but Elven Row is essentially this 12-minute epic song. I don't think you heard me introduce the song, but it's Elven Row by Animal Collective. This is essentially a very long, very sprawling, deep, dense kind of pop song. And this might be one of my favorite pop songs. I haven't really kept track. But it's essentially this 12-minute long, like psychedelic pop track that just comes at you. It's just very melodic, very progressive. There's just so much shit happening in it. It starts out very quietly, but it's kind of evokes and it just kind of brings out more passion and melody as time progresses. Because there are parts of this album where the band would essentially just open up with like a huge like noise gate. They would just like tremble the fuck out of their noise, and that would essentially just be the opening of Spirit the Gun, Spirit the Vanish by Animal Collective. And this is one of the quieter tracks. I think it might start out with some noise, but I was always just really impressed by the musicianship, by the atmosphere, the tone. I thought that stuff was always really incredible to listen to. And for those reasons, I always kind of considered it a favorite. Like, if you are aware of Elven Row, it would probably be in your top 10. But for me, it was kind of just like a last minute addition where I was like, I don't really listen to Animal Collective that much. I'm more so listen to like MGMT as far as psychedelic pop music goes. But I still really enjoy this kind of song. Like some parts of the record are really incredible, and especially this song is just incredible. I'm like, every time I throw it on, it's just a blast. I do have to get into that kind of cozy, quiet kind of atmosphere. But when I am in that atmosphere, this song is kind of irreplaceable. It's just kind of a perfect pop song in my eyes. So yeah, great. Then we get the last song, which this is actually the last song that I kind of added last minute because before this it was John Zern, but it was the song "You Will Be Shot." And that was basically just a very sporadic, kind of wild, schizophrenic, all over the place, kind of chaotic jazz grind song, but it only lasted like 1.5 minutes. So I was like, should I really put that in? You know, it is great, but I was kind of like, it works better in the album experience. So I love that album, but I couldn't really include it as a song here. It's not really a complete song. It's just like a schizophrenic, like a chaotic plan of ideas of a song, and that was basically "You Will Be Shot" by John Zorn and Naked City, which is a great record, but on song base, it's kind of hard to pick a favorite there, but I did kind of wanted to throw not a jazz song on there, but like a grindcore song because of the jazz grind stuff from John Zorn. And my favorite grindcore band at the moment is the Berserker. And the Berserker's essentially a very weird kind of death grind band that when I first heard them, I was kind of like, this is garbage, man. What? This is noise. Who would listen to this? But I would play this sometimes just on the treadmill behind me. And I was just like losing my shit. I was like, oh, this is sketchy. This is fun. I just really love the kind of industrial, kind of noisy electronic sounds. And this is like funnily enough, for some people this might sound like very hectic, chaotic noise, but this is actually the most quiet song on the album, which is Last Mistake, which is also my favorite because they give it the most room, the most space to grow. It's I think also the longest song on the album, so it is the song that develops the most over time, which I really like with this, with these kind of songs. And it's hard to really get a moment with the Berserker because the Berserker just like they're basically just static. So they're just slamming through their instrument, they're just slamming through their song breaks, and like they just don't give a fuck. Like they basically just use their instruments as toilet paper or like they just wipe their ass with it. That's how it sounds. But because it's so chaotic, because it's so wild and sporadic, it's always just fun to listen to. It sounds like apes throwing shit at each other. It's just an absolute chaotic mess, but that's why I love it. It's just so all over the place. It's so wild and out there that I'm always just amazed that this exists. I'm like, what am I listening to? And because of that, I'm always just in the mood to go back because I'm like, yeah, I want to experience this shit show again. It's like you're kind of like watching a bad movie, like Birdemic, like something like that. Like it sounds so bad, it sounds so awful that it's kind of fun, and because of that intrigue, you kind of want to go back. So this band is essentially The Room for me. Like they're so bad that I kind of like them, if that makes sense. And for anime, it's kind of like my Garci's wing, if you know that. If you know that, you're a real stud. But there we go. Oh, we finished one row. That's great. Next song I have is. I'm probably gonna go a bit quicker because I don't want to sit here for like 2 hours. But we'll see how long it goes. The next song is "Promise" reprise by Akira Yamoka, if I'm saying her name right. And this is essentially a song that was created for the Silent Hill 2 soundtrack. And I kind of just wanted a ambient song on there because I do really love the how was called again. I'm just forgetting everything today. It's not. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but it's essentially my moment for fuck, I was called again. Like that really famous movie that everyone loves. I think you can see my tabs there, but that was not my intention. Apparently, I cannot get away from my stream program. But yeah, I can just kind of watch my tab there. I'm not sure if you're seeing this, but I don't think I even wanted to see that. But I'm not sure what I'm doing. But yeah, this was basically. Oh yeah. I wanted to say I can't include anything from like Blade Runner, like the soundtrack. Like I love that album, but like every song is pretty consistently good, but nothing is like amazing to me. And with Silent Hill 2 soundtrack, I'm like, oh, some songs are like unforgettably amazing, and others I can just kind of leave, like take or leave. And this is definitely a song that I want to take because Promise Reprise is just this very small snippet of like a beautiful isolated piano track. And it just sounds very gorgeous. I'm just really a fan of the composition and just how the song sounds in general. It's just very dark and gloomy, but because of that light piano tone, it also sounds inspiring. Like there's like a ray of white light at the end of the tunnel. So, listening to the song, like if you're in a really dark place and you hear the song, you might get that feeling. And I think that's pretty great. I think that's what makes this band great. So, or band. Akira's kind of like a solo composer. That's kind of what makes her great. She's like a great atmospheric, tensive builder. Like she just can create a lot of atmosphere in her music, and I commend her for that. It's a pretty fascinating song. Next song I have is Black Tardangon by 808 State. This is my favorite house song at the moment. And it was kind of hard for me to pick a favorite 808 State song. It was definitely from Don Solaris, because that's kind of the only album that doesn't put me to sleep from 808 State. And, not that I dislike house, but house is kind of repetitive and samey. So the tone and the atmosphere really has to make it for you, or it just doesn't. And this is a band, or Don Solaris is definitely the album that kind of pushes them into like a really direct or like kind of a dense experience, which makes it fun to listen to it again. And Black Tardangon is kind of the song that I would usually play. It has the most fun kind of beat switch ups. It has the most sketchy, eccentric feel to the album. And for those reasons, I just kind of come back to it every time, because there are like house tracks on there, or like a house moment on there, progressive breaks, and it's a bit more ambient. And then it sounds a bit like soul inspired. So it's a very like diverse band. Like this is basically 10 times more progressive than Daft Punk. And that's not to say that Daft Punk sucks, but it's more so like Daft Punk is very repetitive dance music, and what they do is probably the best, because that's how house is supposed to sound, like repetitive dance music, which is perfect for Daft Punk. Daft Punk is house. So if you say that that is the best band, I wouldn't necessarily disagree. But for me, on a personal level, and listening back to the record, I kind of got tired of Discovery, but I don't really get tired of Don Solaris. I still kind of listen to that album as like a favorite. So for those reasons, I always pick 808 State over like bands like that, like over Daft Punk, because it just grabs you more. There's more diversion. It's, I don't know, it keeps me coming back, which makes it kind of a favorite, I suppose. Next song I have is Open Face Surgery by Cryptosy. This is, I think, my only like brutal death metal pick. And Cryptosy is a band that I don't really listen to a lot anymore. Like their first two albums are great, and I still would say that Non So Vile is like definitely like a high point in death metal, like one of my favorites. But it does kind of, it's a bit repetitive, and sometimes it is a bit too indistinguishable from each other. And with Open Face Surgery, there are just so many like different spoofs to this song that it's kind of hard to clown on, because you have this part where you hear like kind of a doctor with his like his drill, and he's saying like, "Oh, be advised, this might hurt a lot," because he's doing a fucking surgery on your face, an open face surgery, like he's peeling off your entire skin, and he's operating with that shit. Yeah, that might hurt a bit. Be advised, motherfucker. But yeah, I just really think that the song is brutal. It's epic. It's sketchy. It's just very anthemic. and it's just fucking brutal. Like this is such a brutal song, and I don't usually like go to like straight up slam metal because I find most like slam metal and deathcore kind of indistinguishable from each other. Like if you've heard one song, you've kind of heard them all, in my opinion. And for those reasons, I never really go back to those sounds. It doesn't really appeal to me. But with Cryptocracy, they kind of created those bands, I would say. So it's kind of funny to me that later in their career they would try to make a deathcore record, which is funny because they arguably created that entire sound, like that scene of deathcore bands. And now every like fake metal fan loves deathcore, of course, which deathcore is kind of my least favorite metal genre because I don't really consider it metal, or like, yeah, that's kind of the Finn McKenty opinion, which is might be a bit controversial right now because the dude is a poser, but he might have a point because deathcore kids are not metal fans. I'm not sure why are you blinking? Blink 182 times, but yeah. I really just love the intensity of the song, just how fast the blast beats are, just fun to drum along to. And the riffs are also kind of noodly and kind of weird, which makes it a very like all over the place and technical song. And of course, what puts this song on my list is basically that outer scream that he does. I think he holds like that scream for maybe 30 seconds, like half a minute. I'm like, yeah, you might like Freddie Mercury, but have you heard this motherfucker scream? I'm like, "Oh, what? I was not aware that the music could be that brutal. Like some people might like link me deathcore or some shit like that and say like, oh yeah, like here it is, they're constantly heavy and oh you can't make out anything. And I'm like, yeah, but they're not. Their foundation is just like being heavy, so you can't really distinguish that from the rest of the song because the entire song is just that. And this band is brutal, but they have heavy drums, they have like good riffs, they have like very like funny, kind of quirky but like captivating intros, like skits almost. And then you don't really expect it out of anywhere, and then the motherfucker just screams for like 30 seconds. He's like just like that for, yeah, just half a minute. I'm like, what? I was not aware that death metal could sound that fucking good. And this might still be like my personal favorite death metal song. It's a bit too samey to really put it higher, but I mean, man, that scream that he does, I'm just like, that's basically an eargasm moment for me. When you're playing this entire song and you get to that section, I'm just like kind of like, wow. Like my face just on the floor, almost trying to replicate his style. And then the song goes into like another heavy section, and I'm like, no way that you're continuing after that. And the band just fucking continues. I'm like, that's insane. That's mental, bro. And yeah, for that reason, it's definitely one of my favorites for sure. 92 is Self-Bias Resistor by Fear Factory. This is essentially a industrial band. And I don't think they're my favorite industrial band because they're a bit too direct in your face to it for me. I like a bit more subtlety when I listen to bands. But this is definitely my favorite groove metal song, if you can consider it groove. Because I just love how slamming they are, just how heavy it is on the beats, just how heavy the entire band sounds, and they just don't let up. They're just they're just punching in your face constantly without letting up. And for those reasons, I think it is a very just fun song to put on, but it's also just very ballsy, heavy, and just crunchy, like metal is supposed to be. So for those reasons, I think that's Fear Factory. Maybe in an album sense, it's kind of difficult to listen to them because they're just face pummeling for 50 minutes. It gets a bit tiring to listen to them, but this song in particular, especially the live version of Links, is just incredible. Like, I'm surprised that music could sound that tight, and Fear Factory achieved that tone. Then we get 91, which is Infection Defective by Melt Banana. Melt Banana is a Japanese noise core band, like kind of like a noise rock band. And essentially, all this whole album sounds the same, so it's kind of hard to distinguish songs from each other. But this was essentially the most complete song, the song that I enjoy the most from them. It's basically just this Japanese girl with a guitar that just screams her hairs out and just goes ape shit on the song. And for those reasons, I just really enjoy the overall sound and aesthetic of the record. And this was my favorite song from it. So I was kind of like, yeah, have to do a shout out to Mel Banana because they rock. Next band is one of my recent favorites that, yeah, it's still kind of relatively recent, in comparison to some artists on there. It's a band from 2011, which is called Dragged into Sunlight. I couldn't like display it on my wall right there because it's a bit graphic. But my favorite Dragged into Sunlight song at the moment is Volcanic Bird. I just love kind of like the sludgy, kind of like death and despair kind of tone that they have on this record. It's just a very grimy and gross sounding song, but there are also like a lot of tight grooves and riffs on the record, which makes it very fun to return to, listen to again, and just have a good time to it. And for those reasons, I think that Dragged into Sunlight is probably one of the most like grimiest and nastiest sounding death metal bands there is, but I always enjoy the record. I always put it on and I'm always having a blast to it. So I'm like, yeah, this is probably the most addictive album to listen to in death metal. But yeah, my probably my favorite at the moment. But you know, it doesn't really have like an one amazing song, but this is definitely the closest like great song that it has. So I definitely wanted to shout out Dragon to Sunlight because they are nasty, but I love them. Next artist is Massive Attack, and I picked their song Group 4, which is basically kind of the closer of Mezzanine, which is basically like this 8 minute like epic jam out track with the band. And I believe Elizabeth Fraser on the song as well. I hear her voice at least, so I think that's her. She's not credited. But I just love the grooves on this thing. I think that trip hop in general is just a pretty great sound, so I always enjoy listening to it. And yeah, I think that my favorite used to be, of course, Angel, Teardrop, the big hit singles. But I think that this record or this song in particular is really outstanding, and I've not really heard anyone talk about it. So, if you are a trip hop fan and you want to try out, some more obscure gems of like the big artist names, then I think that Group 4 is probably my personal favorite Massive Attack song. Like it just goes out, it spirals out. It's just like the most experimental and dense song on the record. So that's always why I love it. It's just great. Then we get Bats by The Included, which is basically kind of this folk and hip hop duo. Which I mean I can't remember her name, but I mean the rapper is Aesop Rock, I believe. And I just really love their kind of eccentric styles. Like Aesop Rock is being himself, and the singer is she's kind of being indie, folksy, kind of cutesy, and she's blending in great with a uh, kind of a you know with this hip hop art, and I'm like, yeah, the rapper and the cute folksy lady can make a song together, and it's kind of rocks. I'm like, wow, this is actually really good. I can't really describe what makes it great, but that stuff can kind of happen. I'm still kind of amazed by it, so I would definitely recommend Bets by the Included. Then we get Illuminate My Heart Darling by Indie Halda. And there's not necessarily a song that I could really, favor over the other because most of the Indie Holiday catalog is just sprawled out, long as shit post rock songs that are just great. and I love all of them, but Illuminate My Heart, Darling is kind of the most passionate one. It sounds the most emotional. It hits the closest to me. So for those reasons, I always kind of just considered it my favorite. But that can change, of course. I mean, these songs are long as shit, and I only recently got into indie Halda. And I mean, they're great. They're basically just this indie rock band that plays post rock, and their post rock is beautiful. I love them. So yeah, I mean that entire album, the Enjoy Eternal Bliss album, like the whole thing is just amazing. But especially Illuminate My Heart, Darling is, I would say, my personal favorite. So peep that out if you enjoy bands such as Sigur Rós and Godspeed You Black Emperor, especially, then you will definitely love this. So highly, highly recommend. Then we get into BT, which is a kind of trance artist, and it muted itself again. I think if I move it and twitch it and the cable kind of twist, I think that's what makes that happen. So I just shouldn't touch my mic. That's the lesson. But yeah, BT is a pretty great kind of artist that he is kind of weird because you know he used to be a trance artist. He might still be to this day, but he later picked up the kind of groove with IDM. You know, more in the vein of Boards of Canada and Avex Twin. But I think that his stuff, you know, just in IDM is great because this is essentially a record where he puts in kind of like a classical tinge, some progressive breaks, some new school, some yeah, I mean it just sounds all over the place, a bit trancy as well, like his old style. So you get a mix of all his like main signature sounds, but it's a lot more ambient. It's a lot more glitchy, weird, and all the songs are long as shit. So you could just spiral out to the record. And this is great, like for night walks or when you're like sleeping or you're like relaxing. This is a great album. This Binary Universe. I don't even think I said the title of the song. That is my favorite. But my current favorite of that album is The Internal Locus. That is my current favorite. Might change over time. And this list is not set in stone, just kind of current favorites, like I said. But yeah, I just really love the grooves, just how ambient and eccentric the sound is of this record. And I think for those reasons, it definitely needs some more recognition because I don't think that a lot of people are shouting out "This Binary Universe" by BT, and I think definitely more people should. So definitely peep this one out. Next song is The Last Baron by Mastodon. This is of course a pretty like kind of famous, like kind of sludgy band. And I haven't really been listening to Mastodon recently, but I mean this song live and like also just on the album Crack the Sky, which is their best album, I would say. It's just very epic, sprawling. It's just this long ass ballsy, like 13 minutes epic stoner anthem where they're basically just like gouging at their guitars. They're just basically just going all out. Epic anthems, catchy riffs, anthemic vocals to the record. It's just everything that you want out of a Mastodon song and more. The solo is also pretty good. I would say that the solo is a bit overrated because I think Brent Hines is his name. He just basically just like bends a string for like 2 minutes and like do. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call that a good solo personally. It's a bit one dimensional, but you know, besides kind of a crappy solo, I still think that the song is great. Like the overall tension and the atmosphere of the record is great. I just think that you know if you are gonna focus on that solo, it's in my opinion kind of the weakest moment of that album. like the riffs and the build up to it is way better. So that's kind of what I would say is my favorite moment of Mastodon. Like that whole build up to it, and when they're just shouting out the lyrics and the title of the song, that's also pretty great. Just anything with the vocals and the riffs, like riff salad city is this. This is basically just riffs on top of riffs on top of riffs, just going at each other. It's pretty great. So yeah, my next one is Finished Symphony by Hybrid. Number 84, if anyone's keeping track. And this is a very kind of obscure kind of well, not breaker, I would say, but break beat kind of artist. And, you know, back when I listened to this, I think this came out in 1995. And yeah, this is basically just an album that was designed for the clubs, for rooms, for house, you know, for basically that EDM scene. But it's not really a traditional house or EDM track because that would just be really boring. But it's this really like dense, weird, and kind of this very overextending kind of progressive break album. So, like, could I compare this to something? I think the closest that you can get to this sound is probably the Prodigy, like that big beat sound. That's probably the closest thing I can compare it to because it's on the same album chart, I believe, on Rachel Music. But you know, the Prodigy are good, but they are a bit too one-dimensional for me to really return to them. And Hybrid is essentially this very sprawling, weird kind of like this all over the place band that like this song is like almost 10 minutes long. So it's just long as shit. It just goes out. It's just this very big and sprawling song that's just epic. It's very ambient, it's atmospheric, but it's also very progressive and just very anthemic to listen to. It's just a very catchy song, but it's also always it's also 10 minutes long, so it's just long as shit, and you can just lose your mind into this. And I think for those reasons, it's just very great because those long songs, like usually with short songs, they just come and go. Like those are good as well, but usually you can't really put them on repeat too much because it would get boring. And this because the song is so long, it's kind of hard to get tired of it because it's so long. There's so many different sections in it, so it's hard to really get bored of it. So that's why I want to include it as my favorite breakbeat song. I would say it's definitely at the moment my favorite. I would say. Then we get Abandoned Language by Dialect, which is a very kind of weird, experimental, industrial sounding hip hop record. Because Dialect is basically this duo of musicians that basically just makes this very grimy, dark, industrial hip hop sound. So this is essentially the OG clipping or Death Grips. Like these guys came 10 years before them, so you could consider this the birth of industrial hip hop. I'm not sure if you can really call this industrial, like it's labeled as abstract, but it's so fucking weird and out there that you could also just label it industrial. Like I wouldn't really disagree if you call it that. So this might be the birth of that sound. Maybe this or MF Doom. But I prefer this because it's just so like with Hybrid, it's so long, it's so dense. I just love kind of the backbeat of the song. The fact that it just sprawls out and there are just so many sections to the song. I'm kind of like it's kind of like that Kendrick Lamar thing again. I'm not sure if I was not Kendrick Lamar, but Dear Shadow. Like this sounds like progressive hip hop to me, like almost as if you're listening to prog, but in a hip hop jacket. That's how it sounds to me. So I'm kind of fascinated with the sound because I've never really heard, in a hit like a rapper be this like deep and lyrical and kind of intriguing with his lyrical or with his rapping, because he built so much like space and like industrial abstract sound around him that it sounds like you're going through like a grimy New York like kind of alleyway. That's how this entire album sounds, and I'm kind of obsessed with that sound. I think that's a very eccentric, just a fun kind of like a very gloomy kind of sound. And if you can see me right now, I am kind of a gloomy motherfucker. So yeah, dialect just really appeals to me. So that's the reason I want to include it here. Great song. Then we get into another song, surprise, but that's a song, Sunset Song by Psy. And I kind of wanted to mention the song because I've never really heard anyone talk about Sunset Song. Like usually when you get to like the Imaginary Sonicescape album, people usually are pretty satisfied with like the first two songs, and they would cite those as their favorites. And I mean, those are fine songs, but I really like kind of the psychedelic, moody atmosphere that Sunset Song provides, but it also is just very just dark, gritty, and heavy. But it also has this like psychedelic pop tone to it, so it's kind of switches between the dark content that they usually provide, but it also is very gloomy and heavy like they usually are. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. It's just very weird to hear this band be all sunshine, rainbow, psychedelia, like kind of like a pop band at some sections, and then you get their regular blend, which is just this very fucking weird avant-garde black metal sound, and they combine that. Like this song basically sounds like if Burzum and the Beatles collaborated with each other. That's how this sounds. A Burzum Beatles collaboration. Yeah, I don't think a single Beatle would survive in the room, if you know Varg Vikernes, but yeah, I don't have those fuckers on here, just to clarify. But I did have this on there because I just really like the blend, the mix, and I think that makes for a great kind of combination. So pretty great. Then we get Non-Objective Portrait of Karma by Circle Takes the Square. Yeah, that's a fucking mouthful. But this is kind of the only screamo band that I can tolerate. And I really love this song in particular because you have some moments where it's very quiet and moody, where you're just really like just taking in the atmosphere. And then just moments where they're just breaking down their instrument, almost like a grindcore kind of song. And like the guy and the female vocalist are just like screaming at each other. It's just insane. It's an insane mix of screamo, of kind of like the spunk sounds, prog rock, post hardcore. There's just so much shit flying across the room that is always just fun to listen to. So I can always just recommend it for that. It's just a great mix of screamo and hardcore music. Definitely recommend it. Then we get an artist that I recently got into because I, for the longest time, did not understand the appeal of Foxy Shazam. But I really love this song and kind of this record that it comes with. I think it's self-titled, which is Killing It by Foxy Shazam. And it's basically just this cheeky kind of rock and roll song where you have Foxy who goes through his motions and he's kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of like this glamorous rock star. Like he's kind of like this band basically just wants to sound like David Bowie, but not on that like operatic or that thematic style that he has, like that very Ziggy Stardust esque look that he has. But they're basically just going for his eccentric style, like his energy, and they're just going ape shit on that, and that's pretty great because this basically just sounds like an opera on steroids, like a hard rock kind of power pop band like Andrew WK, but basically this band does it in a glam rock jacket, which is great. I think there are some moments where like the female backup vocals are saying like, "Oh, do me tell me if it hurts, oh do me tell me." I found, you know, you got that, and then the singer is basically like making croon sounds as like the ad lib, and I'm like, this guy's fucking weird. He's really weird and eccentric, but I just love his energy. He just fills up the room with brightness, with happiness, with his eccentric like kind of glam rock style. And for those reasons, this song just always puts me in a good mood. The whole album is killer, but especially this song is just like an anthemic rock song. Like if you love like Queen and David Bowie and you know stuff like that in that glam rock era, like the 70s. You also have Sparks, I believe. You know, if you love glam rock and you want it in a bit more of a modern jacket, then Foxy Shazam is essentially the band for you. So I was kind of like glam rock, but you know, also Roxy music. Can't forget them, of course. But yeah, great glam rock, but this is still probably my favorite at the moment. So yeah, love it. Then we get 79. We're almost a quarter there. Hopefully, it's not gonna be 4 hours. I'm gonna go a bit quicker. Coming in from the cold by the Delgados, which is basically this chamber pop, this very calm, moody, relaxing track that is just very fun to listen to, and I always just enjoyed it purely on the base of it's relaxing, it's cool, it's just chill to listen to, and it always just puts me in a great mood. You know, if you're upset, it's great. If you're happy, it's melancholic. If you're just in a neutral mood, it probably is gonna uplift you into a better mood. It's just kind of like a really dark and gloomy song that also sounds anthemic and happy at the same time. I'm kind of like, how can you achieve that? That's amazing. And yeah, they kind of did that with this song. So that's great. Love it. Love it. Then we get kind of a personal pick, but I think this is also a more popular song on there, which is Song of the Ancients by Keiichi Okabe, which is a very sad song. This entire soundtrack is pretty sad because this comes from the Near soundtrack, which, the original game, it does kind of look like a turd. I mean, come on now, it's kind of a huge pile of shit, but the soundtrack is amazing. Like, that soundtrack is very fucking good. I love pretty much every song on that record, but especially Song of the Ancient is kind of like this anthemic, kind of this wild, anthemic ride that you're getting, and it already sounds great on the base of that. But then the vocals come in, and I'm like, this actually sounds like a fucking angel singing to you. Like, her voice is beautiful. I'm like, wow. That tone, the production is as clean as day, and her voice is gorgeous. Like, absolutely beautiful vocals, and they're just soaring onto this track. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm kind of falling in love with the song again. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So I don't have a lot of soundtracks on there, like with Akira Yamoka did it for ambient. This is my favorite new age song, like easy listening music. This is definitely my favorite song. I would still, as far as overall albums go, I would still go to what was her name again? Yuki Kajira. That's my favorite new age artist, if you can consider her that. But with the Hack Dot soundtracks. But this is my favorite new age song. Like, the Near soundtracks are, like the name would suggest, nearly perfect, and this song is as close to perfection as you can get, in my opinion. So, absolutely gorgeous song. I can't really describe it. It's just one of those songs that if you hear it and you have heard Song of the Ancients, you're kind of like, did people create this, or is this created at Heaven's Gate? Like that's how godly it sounds. It's just an absolute god tier song. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So yeah, definitely scope that one out if you love easy listening with some gorgeous vocals. Absolutely stunning. Then we get a bit of a less subtle song, which is called "Ready to Die" by not Biggie, but Andrew WK. This is basically kind of like this party guy, very party anthemic, very you know wild eccentric personality that's just like, yeah, I want to fucking party, let's go, let's go, let's go, just the entire time, just the entire time when he is doing his thing. You're basically just listening to a dude that wants to party. And I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, that sounds fun. I'm not always in that mood, but when I am, Andrew WK is my boy, and Ready to Die is his most fun song in my opinion. Like every time I hear that song, my fucking fist goes in the air. It's just so much fun. So that's definitely my favorite kind of power pop kind of record, or a hard rock song. It's definitely my favorite of that. So there you go. Then we get for my favorite electropop artist, or song at least, is Empire Ends by Gorillaz. And this is, of course, a very famous kind of ballad, I would say, from them, which they also did with. I can't remember the name of her, but Damon Albarn did a collaboration with this, Japanese artist, this female vocalist that is kind of singing along with Empire Ends, and of course, Damon Albarn represents the character of 2D, in the Gorillaz, the characters, and the female vocalist represents Noodle on the track. And the way they sing back at each other, and the way they just kind of float into each other's kind of world with the lyrics and the song, is just so gorgeous. I'm like, this is drop dead gorgeous music. I'm like, with the piano tones, with the overall aesthetic of it, the atmosphere, just how Damon Albarn sings on it, it's just absolutely beautiful. And then she comes in, and it's just a cherry on top. It's just absolute pop perfection. I'm like, yeah, you don't get more beautiful than that. Like with Song of the Ancient and Empire Ends, just absolutely gorgeous pop songs. I love that. I love this song. So yeah, definitely had to shout it out there as my, maybe not my like go-to Gorilla song when I want to jam out. I usually just go to Demon Days, but as like my personal favorite Gorilla song, that's just the best ever. It's probably Empire Ends. Like that's just a gorgeous song. You can't deny that. It's beautiful. I mean, come on. Then we get a less subtle song again, which is "Stupid MF" by Mindless Self-Indulgent. They actually titled it like that. I didn't censor myself. Stupid, MF. There you go. Not gonna swear too much on here, but might already be a bit too late for that. So this is a digital hardcore band, which I kind of found strange in the beginning because they were so all over the place, kind of like the Berserker. But MSI is a lot more, catchy and thematic. They're a lot more like kind of this goofy band. Like the Berserker is just brutal in your face, and Minus Self and Those is a bit more like playful with their music. But I mean, there are literally, songs of that album where this song is also from. Oh well, no, that's from the last record. But they literally have a song on there called "The F Word." And if you don't know what the F word means, look it up. I can't say that here because that's would get me flagged. But yeah, they're not a very clean band. Let's say that. But they are fun. And I think the Stupid MF is their most fun song. I have that matched with like a Soul Eater AMV. And I say that this time because the singer, Jimmy Urine, I believe he's called, he actually got a playlist saved of like his most popular songs with all fan made AMVs. Like he actually has that on his official like channel list. I think that's great. I think yeah, the guy, he can take a joke. He's self aware of how goofy they are. I think that's pretty great. So Stupid MF is my favorite from them, especially with Soul Eater. So then we get the next song, and we're going 50 years back in time. in that era almost, and almost 60 years now, which is called. It's a song called El Paso by Marty Robbins. It's basically this kind of cowboy revenge story where Marty Robbins is walking into a bar and he's like, "Yeah, this girl, man, oh, I love her so much. Oh, she's my life." And he's not aware that she can't talk to other guys or something. Like, men back in that time were pretty like caveman brained because he's like, "Oh, my girl, I love her so much," and then this fuck boy walks into the bar. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna raise her up," and I'm like, "Yeah, I mean." She is a young lady, so what did you expect, bro? So she's getting conquered, and he's like, "Oh fuck, man, I'm getting angry." So he's like literally picking up a fight with that dude, and he kills the dude. He kills him. I'm like, "Fuck, that is pretty brutal." So he's going into like he's walking away, or it's like he's going on his horse, and while that's happening, he's like singing it in a song, in an outlaw country song. And this is probably my favorite country song and artist, by the way, because modern country sucks, but outlaw country is pretty great. So definitely check that out if you like that style of music, but you don't really get along with modern country. Marty Robbins is definitely my favorite country artist for sure. And I think this song is great because like he's just talking about this story where he just wants to be with this woman. He can be with that woman, so he just fucking kills a dude. Like, bro, that's pretty serious. Like, country artists are pretty brutal sometimes. Like that, they're pretty metal actually. It just doesn't sound metal, but it's still great, right? So he goes, or well, he doesn't go back. He like gets killed because there's like a big ass bounty on him, and then he just drops to the ground and he dies. Like he bleeds out, and while he has like a bullet in his heart, this woman comes back to him and kisses him. Like, "Oh, I love you, baby," and they're going out, and oh yeah, like he's happy that he died with her, but he's still kind of fucked because you can't be with her. That's pretty messed up, right? So I'm kind of like, yeah, that's a pretty fucking grim song, but I mean, it's country. What did you expect? Country is kind of dark in that style, if you can tell. And I think he's a great songwriter because I listened to that entire story and I was kind of like, yeah, I get it because it's like a 50-year-old ass song where the lyrics are kind of comprehensible. So hey, he told a pretty basic story, but I'm like, yeah, it's it's inspiring, it's understandable, it's actually kind of captivating to listen to him because I'm like, yeah, like she can talk to anyone, bro. It's not a big deal. But he's just kind of like, yeah, I want to be with her. Oh, I feel it so bad, and I almost feel for Marty Roberts just how passionate he is in his performance. I'm like, yeah, this dude is really down bad for this girl. I almost commend him for that, almost. But besides that, still a pretty great song, so I definitely would recommend. Then we get into, well, a less subtle artist, which is Def Grips. And my favorite Def Grips song at the moment is "Bring That Shit, Bring It, Baby," Through the Wall. You know that one, Through the Walls, because I just love how wild and ape shit the song goes. Like it's just constantly this hit of like industrial hip hop sounds, like going into your face, going into your gut, like throat punches almost. It sounds like you're suffocating to it. And then I just really love that overall like wild chaotic sound on the record. And then like the last 30 seconds is basically just this industrial electronic breakdown where you're like just the entire time with like keyboard and like electronic sounds. And if you basically created a whole song out of that last 30 seconds, the song would be like 30 places higher because I love the outro of Through the Walls. Just how it sounds, just how industrial and eclectic, and just how like fucking weird this entire song is. Like it's so wild and over the place. And then the last 30 seconds is actually kind of like a pleasant, soothing. It sounds like a keyboard is glitching out. It's a really fun. It's just a really fun song. I'm like, fuck, man, that's fun. and because of that, I just constantly want to listen to it again, just to get to that part again. And I'm like, oh, like that's an actual like audio orgasm. Like that's last 30 seconds because yeah, it just is, you know, not cause it just is. So that's great. Then we get the next song, which is my documents kind of clipped into each other, so that's not very handy. Next song is Soldier Side by System of a Down. And this is my favorite System song at the moment because I was kind of considering Holy Mountains and, well, Vicinity of Obscenity is also pretty fun. But I did want to go with Soldier Side because it is the most emotional, gripping song. It's kind of the last official song that they brought out as far as albums go. And I think for those reasons, like it's just a very gloomy and sad song, but you still get like those typical heavy System of a Down bridges and breakdowns, just with that Arabian flair that it always provides, or like I'm not sure how you call that, but like kind of like their Eastern influence sound into the record, with also this very gloomy and emotional tone. I'm like, wow, this is really good. I just really enjoy the sadness and just the overall despair of the sound of the song because it just sounds like they're not coming back. It just sounds like a dead end. Like they're just really drowning in the sorrow. And for those reasons, I think it's really good. I think those sounds make it very captivating and just fun to listen to. So I just always really enjoyed those gloomy soundscapes on, well, on Hypnotize in general would be my favorite System of a Down album, but especially Soldier Side is just amazing, like an amazing song. Like if you don't think that song is good, you're kind of tone deaf. So yeah, definitely a great song. Definitely just kind of a one of a kind song in the discography because they've never really been emotional and kind of like this dark before this song, but they really matured in that song, and then they just call it quits. They're like, yeah, this is perfect. Let's end it there. I don't blame them because it's still my favorite System of a Down song, so pretty great. Then we get a very fun industrial song, which is called Ends by Clipping. And this is just a very fun, kind of weird, like similar to Death Grips, just this weird, sprawling, and just this very all over the place kind of industrial song because you have David Dix, I believe his name is. David Dix, which is basically just this very like famous, or he's like, I believe an actor as well. And he just raps the shit out of this entire album, by the way. Like the clipping, like that album. It's pretty great, but also just this song is just arguably the best of their entire career because he just keeps spitting on there. The beats keep switching up. The tone on this record as well is just very like dark and just very in his advantage because it just sounds like you never know where the beat is gonna go. It's just a very chaotic and kind of like unstable song, and for those reasons, it just stays fun to listen to. So it always has kind of been my favorite clipping song. You know, they always kind of had that tone, but especially on this song in particular, they're just extra dark and almost heavy in a way, and that just keeps it fun for me. Like Ants has always just been a personal favorite for me, so had to shout it out here. Amazing band, I would say. Pretty great. Clipping is pretty one of a kind band, arguably even better than Death Grips, but you know that's tomato, yeah, right? It's industrial hip hop, so pretty great, nonetheless. Then we get "Feel You" by Julia Holter, and Death Grips and Clipping are pretty loud and noisy bands, so that might not be for everyone. "Feel You" is actually that's probably the only like universal song that I could recommend on there, and maybe like Empire Ends because it's gorgeous, right? But Feel You by Julia Holter is just this very easygoing, kind of this chamber ambient pop song, which is just, it's absolutely gorgeous. Like her voice and the compositions on there and just how it sounds. She's basically a modern Kate Bush, essentially. Her vocals and just the way this song is composed is just fucking gorgeous. It's very pretty, very elegant. It's just a very rich and powerful sounding song. I'm like, again with like Kaichi Okabe, did a human being create this? Because it's so beautiful. It's just absolutely filled with life and purpose and just it's so rich in sound. I'm like, how can like one human being create this? Like I assume that she writes her own shit, right? It's gorgeous. It's a fucking beautiful song. I'm like, wow. I just get happy just talking about it. It's just an absolutely gorgeous song. I absolutely love the shit out of Julia Holter. And yeah, Feel You is definitely arguably her most accessible song, her most popular, I believe, as well. And there's a good reason for that. It's just absolutely gorgeous to listen to. Beautiful song. Can't recommend it enough. Then we get 69, which is FCP remix by The Fall of Troy. This is a weird kind of post-hardcore math rock band that I discovered through the Golden Witch YouTuber. She's probably my favorite YouTuber, and who else? Or my main influence for this channel, I would say. Golden Witch and Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock. It also was like a bonus track on there. And I just they're just a weird like kind of math rocky band, like if you can imagine like Toe or something, or that other Japanese chick bands, kind of like that, I would say. And they're just so weird and out there. The riffs are very noodly. It starts out with kind of like this noodly intro riff, and then it has these math rock riffs, a post-hardcore breakdown, and then it just goes into fucking overdrive, and it almost sounds like they're becoming a metalcore band. Like they're all over the place. It's such a wild and spiraling, sporadic band that it's just kind of hard to keep track of where you're at the record. And for those reasons, it's always just fun and engaging to listen to the song. And I think I would definitely recommend it if you're into like these more like hardcore, like these emo, post-hardcore kind of bands. Then I would say that The Fall of Troy is probably my favorite of that era. Of the like Mars Voltas and At the Drive-In. Well, not my all-time favorite hardcore band because those bands exist, like I said, but they kind of sound like that. So more Mars Volta-esque bands. I would never complain, right? Because that's an all-time great. And then we get a very pretty song as well, which is Sister Cities by Hop Along. This is the closest thing to a indie pop album I like. So kind of like Morrissey, The Smiths, kind of like that sounds. But this band is a bit more indie, a bit more, I would say less controversial, if you know more Morrissey. And it's also a bit more modern. Like this album came out like 30 years later after The Queen is dead, so of course it's gonna be a bit more modern. But for those reasons, it sounds a bit more aspiring or a bit more, up to date. It sounds more, with the children, if you would say so. And for those reasons, I always just really liked the overall aesthetic and the sound of this record. It's just a very like youthful and fun, full sounding record, full of life, and especially when the singer like sings the title track like "Sister Cities," and she's holding like that high ass note with her like kind of raspy voice. He kind of sounds like kind of like a cowgirl, but also just with this twang in her voice, a little bit of twang. But I just love like kind of like a raspy like voice that she has on this record because that gives it more personality. Like she's not just cute for show off. She also like has a huge ass voice to come back at the sound of of Sister Cities, which is the best song of their career, I would say, at the moment. They might eclipse it, but as far as today goes, Sister Cities is still my all-time favorite song from them, and it's just very, very pretty. So I would definitely recommend it. It's just a very cute and awesome song. I love it. Then we get Ego Death by Bus Driver. This is a really fun song. Just as this weird, abstract hip hop song, where I think that this was also the song, I believe, where Bus Driver was singing about, this verse costed like 6K to produce in the studios. I had to take like 4 takes to get this right. Oh, that was a lie. Oh, you're so naive. You're easily manipulated. And I'm like, dude, you're weird. Like I didn't need to know your production calls or your time, but it's funny because it gives a bit more of a personality into the record. You're just getting more depth into the record, and I'm still not sure if that was a lie or not. I'm still wondering about it. I'm like, did that motherfucker lie to me? I'm not even sure, but it's fun. It's a fun kind of neat gimmick to the record. I think that adds personality, and like this overall sound, it's very grimy, spacey sounding. It sounds very like electronic, but also very abstract. There's just a lot of soundscapes on the song, which just keeps it fun and engaging for me to listen to. So you can probably throw this song on like 100 times, and I wouldn't get bored of it. It's just a very fun song. There was also like one like shouty, like kind of weird, loud shout out that he did that I kind of forgot, and it was really funny. But yeah, I kind of forgot, but it just has a lot of personality. I love Bus Driver for that, so definitely highly recommend it. Next song is Quiet Little Voices by We Were Promised Jetpacks. This is I believe they're called a post-punk revival band. So this is basically Interpol, but not shit. Shots fired. But yeah, I mean, come at me, Interpol's boring. But this band isn't, because they're just very like loud and abrasive and just in your face, and they're just like quiet little voices, and they're just going ape shit on their guitars. But it also sounds like it sounds like they're being a bit like Block Party and that bit of that kind of revival sound, that indie sound. But I really like that sound because they also have a bit of a shoegaze flair, like that alternative indie rock vibe with shoegaze and post-punk revival. Just so many layers on top of each other. And then you get this song where they're just yelling passionately about quiet little voices in my head, and they're just going ape shit on it. And I'm like, oh man, these guys are so passionate about what the fuck they're doing. I'm just really enthralled by the experience. I think it's great. So definitely one of my all-time favorite songs for sure. Then we get probably my most recent addition to the list, which is not very accessible. This is not an easygoing song like Quiet Little Voices, but it is great in my eyes, which is Deadhead by Godflesh. Yeah, I know, sounds very cheerful, right? But this is a very weird band. This is a very influential band because I think that this band essentially, I'm not sure, but I think they might have created sludge metal and industrial metal. Don't quote me on that, but they are a very, influential sound on that entire scene. And I love this song the most because this is one of those songs where they're just like jamming out crazy, and Godflesh is mostly known for this very like one tone, primitive kind of sound, like Raz or Christ Bait Rising, like these very like one tone, one dimensional, like one repeated snare into your face, and you just get a lot of industrial noise on top of that, which I think is great. I'm usually not really into repetitive music, but you know, Goldflash has such a weird and dark and gloomy tone that I just really love their soundscapes, their sound compositions. And Deadhead is essentially like an industrial shoegaze song. Like that's fucking crazy. Like this is an industrial metal band that basically just sounds like Swans but heavier. But I love this band instead of Swans because this band also is very industrial, very heavy. They have sludge riffs, and this song in particular, Deadhead, is a shoegaze riff salad. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, it's insane. I'm listening to the song, and they're just layers on top of layers on top of layers of industrial sludge shoegaze. I'm like, what the fuck am I listening to? This is this is amazing. I can't believe that this exists because it's so all over the place and weird. I'm like, how does this band exist? Like they're creating sludge shoegaze music, like with industrial metal. I'm like, yeah, I'm just absolutely floored by how this sounds. It sounds absolutely amazing. It's not higher than this because you know, Godflesh is a very primitive band. So if you're hearing like one riff for the first second, that's basically all you're getting. So they're kind of like a loop band. But this loop and this tone is so amazing that I can't ignore it. It's so fucking good. I always just listen to this and I'm just in another world when I listen to Deadhead or just any song of this album. Really, they're all highlights, but especially Deadhead in my eyes is just absolutely phenomenal. Amazing song. Amazing band. Then we get another band that is a bit more easy on the ears. I will go easy on you guys for this one. This is Delirium Trigger by Coheed and Cambria, which is a very kind of, I would say, almost kind of divisive band because they're kind of love them or hate them. And I used to hate them, then I like them, and no, I love this record. I would say this a second turbine stage, I believe it's called. And this is a great album because it's just kind of like this emo kind of post-hardcore record that it just sounds so weird. It just sounds so all over the place. But I just love the vocals and just how anthemic and just how energetic the song is. It's just very passionate, filled with like catchy post-hardcore riffs, emo pop vocals, and just a lot of just passion in the song. And I think it also just dwindles out on a very sad note. So it essentially kind of just sounds like a popping songs with hardcore breakdowns. That's essentially how the song sounds, which is great in my opinion. So definitely recommend it if you're into that type of sound. Then this is great. Arguably the best of its kind. Then we get The Somber Lane by The Section. This is my favorite melodic black metal song. And I would say that nowadays I would probably say that Storm of the Last Bane is one of my favorite albums because I can just jam the fuck out of that. I just jammed it out on the treadmill, if you can see it there. If my camera wants to zoom out, ooh, I control it now. That was not scripted because I don't script shit. But yeah, there is my. Yeah, you can see it right. There's my fucking treadmill. Yeah, and I basically just jammed out to that for like 1.5 hours on the treadmill, and I was like, yeah, this is fucking fun. Especially Retribution, Soul Reaper, and Night's Blood. I thought were pretty phenomenal songs. Unhallowed as well is pretty great. So it's just like their section is just a very long and sporadic band. They just have these 8 minute like melodic black metal songs that are very catchy, very like melodic, like the genre would say. They're just a very dark and gloomy bands, but they're also very anthemic and catchy because melodic black metal. So they're essentially just a metal death band, but just with a black metal jacket. That's how I would describe it. So basically, just a kind of like a dark tranquility or In Flames kind of band, but just black metal like that. It's pretty great. I love that kind of sound. So definitely recommend it if you're into those type of bands, you know, but just black metal. Then this is perfect for you. Stromboli, especially the live version. The live version is amazing. I love that song the most, so definitely wanted to shout it out here. Next song, also pretty gloomy and heavy, which is Love You to Death by Type O Negative. This is a pretty dark and upsetting band because Peter Steele is not a very cheerful guy, but Love You to Death is just one of these very gloomy and emotional songs that always just kind of gets me, especially the live version when you just see him like scream and almost like cry because he just means it with his heart, you know. And I'm like, yeah, this is easily the best like gothic metal sound I've ever heard in my life. So it's pretty amazing. It's also pretty shoegazy and kind of alternative, so that also appeals to me. And Type O Negative is just the best band in that sound, in that gothic metal sound. They're easily the best band in my opinion, and this is their crowning achievement, in my opinion. Next song is Battle Song by Encifrum. This is just a like 3-minute balls to the wall, get in, get out, epic ass folk Viking metal song. They're just these riffs that go off. They're kind of noodly, and they're just these anthemic anthems where they're like, "We go to battle to do the sky." You know, they're just basically creating an anthem for you. And after they've done it like 2 times, like if you're at the 2 minutes mark and you get into their bridge, they're just going ape shit on their guitars, like absolutely ape shit. I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? And they're just going heavier, they're going faster, and they're going back to the chorus again. We go to battle into the sky. You know, they're just going fucking ape shit. They're just going insane, and I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? I'm just amazed. I'm like, what the fuck? You know, I'm being a broken record, but I'm just like, wow. I was not aware that metal could be that exciting to listen to. It's just like 3 minutes long, and every time I get to that final section, I'm just kind of like my ears are just like fucking creaming like the entire time. I'm just like, is this real? Is this a real sound? I'm just amazed. I'm just what? I'm just amazed by that song in particular. It's just fucking amazing. Also, you know, Treacherous God and Token of Time, pretty great songs. But when I get to Battle Song and I complete that, I'm just, my jaw's on the floor just for how much I cream to that last part. It's just absolutely amazing. So, stunner. Just an absolute stunner. Amazing. Next song is kind of personal to me because I've always kind of played this whenever I was kind of isolated and lonely, and when I felt like I didn't really have anywhere to go to, and that's still kind of, you know, true today. So this song is still kind of hits close. It's kind of hits close to home for me, which is "Lonely Rolling Star" by Ivy and Sarasu. And this is basically a cover I found from the Lonely Rolling Star song from Katamari Dashi, I believe. Something like that. You know, the ball where you have to roll a hunk of shit together in the city to, you know, create chaos, just create as much shit as possible. I think it was that game. Great game, but yeah, this was my favorite song of that soundtrack. It's I believe also the most popular. And this cover that I've heard is just beautiful. Like it's basically just this you know, this woman with a piano with kind of like a keyboard that just kind of replicates the notes and the melodies. And then whenever you get to their bridge where it goes like, I'm very off key, I know, but you know, you get this very like isolated, kind of lonely sound on the record. You know, that's kind of sound, and then it picks back up. Every time it goes to that slow section, I'm just like, it hits my soul. I'm like, fuck, man, that hits like a ton of bricks. It's just absolutely amazing how, emotional and how personal that sounds. For just playing a few notes on a keyboard, I'm just absolutely amazed by how that sounds. It's just an absolutely amazing sounding song, and I can't recommend it enough. Great song. Next one is a bit more popular, I think. It's not Closer, actually. I'm talking about Nine Inch Nails, of course, but one of my favorite bands. But my favorite song at the moment is Heresy from the Downward Spiral. And I love the song the most probably because it's just this very weird and kind of like this slow brooding song at the beginning, where you have this kind of intro sequence of like a keyboard, or like a synthesizer, and then it goes into this industrial drum slam, and then Trent Reznor is like slowly whispering into your ear stuff, and then like suddenly out of nowhere he's like, "God is dead and no one cares. Fuck you." And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of heavy. That's kind of metal. I'm digging that. So he's just constantly having these like breakdowns and shit, and then it goes into another synthesizer breakdown, and then it starts out the whole thing again. And I just love when he says like, "God is dead and no one cares," because I was always kind of like, yeah, there's no God for me, so God is dead, right? So, like, God isn't here, so God is always dead to me. Not to get all religious, but yeah, that's just what I think personally. That's just the logical explanation for that. I would say, like, if no one is here, I wouldn't believe in them. Simple as that. But yeah, not to get all religious on your ass, but this song is just stunning. I just love the composition, the raw expression of Trent Reznor is my favorite. I've probably played the song the most. As far as a composition go, I would say that's probably Closer, Hurt, and especially The Day the World Went Away. Like, those are masterpiece songs that are just very rich and beautifully composed. But Heresy is just the rawest hit of industrial that you can get in your face from Nine Inch Nails, from Trent Reznor. So I always consider it kind of my favorite, but like most of their songs from the first 4 albums, I would say, are all pretty great. So you can basically just throw a dart at any of them and you would get a home run. So pretty great discography up to that point. So great band, and Heresy is probably my personal favorite at the moment. So yeah, Nine Inch Nails. There you go. We're almost halfway. And the next band is Celtic Frost. I kind of got out of their early stuff because it doesn't really appeal to me as far as production go. But then I kind of listened back to the last album, Monotheist, and it's so dark and gloomy that I'm like, yeah, this is definitely my vibe. It's like this very dark and like this gloomy sound of doom metal. And it doesn't sound like it gets any better, right? It sounds like they're just dying, like especially with a dying god coming into human flesh. Like especially when the song is quiet and all acoustic, and then you get that one doom breakdown, and they're like, "God is there." Another God is that song. Like, I didn't plan it out like this, but yeah, God is indeed that at this point. A dying god, even. And this might be the prequel to Heresy, who knows? But yeah, despite it being 12 years older. But yeah, I just really love the soundscapes and just how fucking dark this song is. Because I believe that's like Tom Wars like saying like God is heaven and dying is something like that. And he's just constantly like, yeah, your God is fucking dead. I'm dying into human flesh, bitch. I'm your new God. Now, that might not be the meaning of the song, but that's how I interpret it. And I just really find his displaying very impressive. So I'm a pretty big fan of this song especially. I mean, it's kind of like the most popular song, I believe, from their catalog, especially from from this album. So that's not a very unpopular opinion, but I mean, just listen to the song and don't like if you don't think that song is heavy and fucking gloomy, then you're high. Like that's such an moody, atmospheric song. Like atmosphere is its second name. That's how fucking dark it is. So definitely listen to that song if you're into that vibe. My fucking throat is dying into human flesh. Like, come on. I miss my Sprite. I just need more of this. So fucking good. What else is really good? Cloudbusting by Kate Bush. Of course, I had to include Kate Bush because she is arguably the greatest pop artist we ever had. So of course I had to include a song from Kate Bush, and my favorite from her is Cloudbusting from the Hounds of Love album. And of course the song is great. I mean, you know, if you're not into Hounds of Love, you're kind of high, I would say. Like Hounds of Love is a universally amazing album, so of course it's gonna be on here, or one of the songs at least. And this song in particular, I just really love the strings on it, just how pretty it sounds. It sounds very happy and uplifting, and I just love Kate's voice on there, like kind of like like with Julia Holter, but like Kate Bush is the fucking goddess. Like she is the queen of this foundation sound, so you have to include her. She is the best. Although I have like one other pop artist above her, but it's personal pick. But I mean, Kate Bush is like the most like eccentric and fun artist to listen to, or well, just the most universally acceptable out of them all, and the most beloved. So I had to include her because you just can't have a list without Kate Bush, I would say, especially on this caliber. So Cloudbusting, just absolutely gorgeous song. The strings, the kind of baroque, the classical kind of notes on it, her voice, everything about it is just gorgeous. Like this song is absolutely beautiful. And if you disagree with that, you're deaf. You're just deaf. Like who doesn't love Cloudbusting? Like running up that hill, Cloudbusting, amazing songs. Amazing songs. I can't deny that. Who can? An idiot. I mean, come on. Classic. All-time classic. Another all-time classic, of course, is Hyper Ballad by Björk. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to include Björk because she is a very like kind of strange, kind of a weird alternative girl. But I always just really enjoyed the Post album. Still might be my personal favorite, or Vespertine. But I just love kind of like the housey, kind of dance inspired sound of her first two albums. I'm still kind of fond of that. And especially Hyper Ballad is just this very rich, this very layered, dense pop song with a lot of like strings. It kind of sounds like Kate Bush. But I like it a bit more because you just have these like beautiful string arrangements and like the bass tones when it like drops down a peck, and it just gets gloomier and just like kind of heavier in tone, and then Björk's voice comes in, and you also have the like kind of like these synth beats that pop up here and there, and they just complement the flavor of the overall aesthetic of the song. And especially when Björk comes over that, or like she sings over that, I'm like, fuck, that's perfection. Like that's a perfect pop song. Like there's nothing wrong with Hyper. Like the string section is beautiful, the bass tones are amazing. Like there's little synth beats that play over that. Beautiful. Björk's voice, great. The beat switch ups, creative, inventive, keeps it fresh, and the beat itself in the chorus is just everything about the song is amazing. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a beautiful song. I love it. It's so good. Like I might just have to keep it at that because I can't really add anything on top of the conversation because it's hyper ballad. Like of course, it's a perfect it's a perfect pop song. I can't deny that. You know, it's just perfection. So there's that. It's hyper ballads. Listen to that shit. Got it linked. There you go. Thank me later. Then we get. This is a cheeky one. This is Those Who Can Cheat by Those Who Can't Cheat, with a comma, of course, which is Clarence Clarity, which is a very weird kind of alternative R&B artist that I really had to get used to him because he is so weird and experimental and just layered with electronic beats that it was kind of difficult for me to get into this one. But I just really enjoyed the kind of the groovy basses that he has with the song. And then you also get that like that low registered intro voice where he says, "The universe is now," something like that. And then the whole song just opens up like a can, and you just get into this very sprinkly, weird, like kind of R&B, alternative R&B kind of style. Like this is basically like Frank Ocean on steroids. Like that's how this is. I'll mention that guy later as well, but yeah, this is just an absolutely insane song. Arguably, still my favorite alternative R&B artist. Well, he is my personal favorite. But yeah, I just love the beat switches on there. I just love how weird the song is, and just how groovy it is as well. It's like a sexy pop jam, but it sounds like it's been compressed and it's been like glitched into a microwave or something. Like it's been reheated and overheated into like an oven. It just sounds like it's fucking destabilizing. It's pretty great. I love it. Then we got. Ooh, that's a good one. Well, they all are, right? If you tolerate this, your children will be next, which is arguably my all-time favorite Britpop song. And yeah, I do fancy some Britpop. And Manic Street Preachers always had some of the most amazing songs. And If You Tolerate is just their absolute crowning achievement, in my opinion, because it's just sprawling with richness, sprawling with beauty, with excellence. And I just love kind of like the acoustic interludes of the song. It kind of starts out with a child lullaby. So it sounds very youthful and kind of nostalgic to me. But then it also just has these very sprawling and dense parts where the album opens up, you get this acoustic, and the guy comes in with his vocals, and he is just a very, very pretty singer. I love the vocals of Manic Street Preachers. And he's just saying like, if you tolerate this, your children will be next. And I just really love the delivery on it because it's a pretty fucked up title, but he just sings it in such a compassionate and just such a cheerful way that I can't stop but put a smile on my face because I'm just absolutely fascinated with the tone of the song and just how it sounds in general. And especially when you get to like the bridge, when you get like layers and layers on top of guitar layers with each other, and the song just gets more richer in tone and sound. It sounds so clean and clear in the production. And then you're just singing the chorus louder again. If you tolerate this, your children will be next, will be next, will be next, will be next. You know, and it's almost becoming like a metal scream, but he's still kind of keeping his composure, and it just goes out in this beautiful, sprawling way. It sounds a bit psychedelic and progressive as well. It's just a gorgeous pop song. It's just very, very pretty, like kind of this artsy rock song, and it just goes out on the most beautiful way. So it always just left a high impression on me. And I don't think that the Manic Street Preachers ever made like a perfect album, but like this is their perfect song. Like this song is absolutely perfect, and they have some few other songs that I really like, but this is definitely the highlight for me personally. So amazing song for sure. Next one is The Fawn by Aquilus. I recently talked about Aquilus because I think he is probably the most underrated artist that I've mentioned on there. He's basically this very weird kind of melodic black metal dude that's well, not melodic, but he's basically this symphonic kind of dude, symphonic black metal, and I really like him because he's like basically just a one man kind of black metal kind of person, so like a modern day Vark. But he doesn't burn churches and he doesn't stab people, as far as I know. But I just really love his style because he's very like weird, eccentric. He's very experimental with his sounds, but he's also very creative with it. Like he has symphonics in his music, so it sounds a bit like almost Eastern influence or like almost classical in a way, like kind of that 18th century sound, like historical almost. And I think that adds like a really rich flavor into the record because it sounds almost like a history, like an historical record. So you have that, you have the classical elements, you have the symphonics, which symphonics and classical that blends into each other perfectly. But it's also like symphonic black metal, so it's also heavy as fuck. So you have these moments where he's just breaking down and he's just screaming at your ears, and like 2 minutes later, he's basically making an ambient modern classical piece on the same fucking song. I'm like, this is insane. This is like 100 times better than any Emperor record, in my opinion. I just think that this dude is peak. Like, the Fawn is also just an absolutely gorgeous song, and this is the most consistent song where he has his classical tinges. He's a bit more. He's a bit symphonic, but he also just screams your fucking ear off. Like if you're not ready for that black metal sound, like this dude will growl you into the fucking grave. I don't even know what that means, but it just sounds epic, right? But he will just growl you to death. Like absolutely brutal growls. But it's also very pretty. The production is very clean, but it's also very fucking heavy and dense because there's just so much shit happening on there that it's just always just fun to listen to. I'm like, wow, this is just filled with layers, motherfucker, layers. Yeah, so just a gorgeous song. I just always this was always my favorite symphonic black metal album. Like I could never really get into like summoning, and I always thought that Emperor was overrated as shit because their early albums are a bit repetitive for me, and Prometheus is diverse, but it sounds like a hunk of shit. So I'm like, yeah, Emperor is not great, right? Well, they have great moments, but they're not great overall, I would say. And Aquilus, this album especially, Grisius, is just front to back amazing. Every song is amazing. And the Fawn especially is a masterpiece. Well, arguably this entire album is, but especially the Fawn is just chef's kiss. Like that's an absolute amazing masterpiece. It's kind of difficult for me to pick one over the other because In Lands of Ashes is beautiful, Nihil is epic, a Night Bell is beautiful song, very ambient and rich in sound. Smoke. I mean, the entire album is just perfect, right? I had it behind me, but it's like back in my shell, I believe. Just an amazing album. I love it, especially the Fawn. Fawn is my personal favorite. Almost halfway there. Invalid Litter Department by Ed's Drive-In. Basically, a 6 minute post-hardcore song where they're just screaming their heart out. They're just very anthemic and passionate about the song. But this was also always my personal favorite song from them because it's just very anthemic and inspiring to listen to because it is so youthful and just exciting. And for those reasons, it was always just kind of my personal favorite. Despite of the shorter anthemic songs that At the Drive-In has, this one has the most melody and emotion in it, and it's like 6 minutes long, so you can just really delve into the emotion with this one, and I love it for that. That's what makes it my favorite. Another, oh well, not yet, I believe. Well, I was like at the drive-in and then Mars Volta, but I think I included Mars Volta later. I currently don't see them, but we'll see them later probably. Next one I have is Wayfarer by In Flames. And this is the perfect metal jam. This is the song that you can basically just play and you can, jam out riffs to it. You can just keep noodling on that fucking guitar because it's catchy, it's fun. It's just a very instrumentally dense song. There's just so much shit happening on it. But it just stays fun because you can just consistently jam out to it. You can work out to it. You can relax to it. It's so catchy. It's still behind me. And it's just perfect. I'm like, everything about it is perfect. And the weakest thing in Flames, I would say, is the vocals. And that's great because this song is instrumental. So that makes it, in my opinion, the greatest In Flames song. Almost headbutted myself there because of excitement. But yeah, that's what makes her my favorite because it just is the greatest instrumental jam in melodic death metal, arguably in all of metal. It's just so fucking tight. It's amazing. I can't describe it. Just listen to it. It is amazing. Next one is probably my favorite psychedelic pop song, which is Siberian Breaks by MGMT. Basically, this very dense and fun, vibrant kind of psychedelic pop sound, the song. And I love it for that because it's just this very weird, kind of rich, anthemic, almost classical sounding pop song, which just goes on for 12 minutes long. So this is basically my inclusion of Elven Road Part 2. This one is even better, I would say. I just love the kind of quiet, moody, like the psychedelic, tone that MGMT has. But it's always just fun. It's always just fun to listen to them. It's always relaxing. With Animal Collective, I'm sometimes like, it's a bit it's a bit much. But with MGMT, I'm always happy. I'm always just in the mood to listen to them. It's very easygoing music, but it's also just filled with dense density layers, and just a lot of progressive breaks, which makes it great, and which makes it my personal favorite. It just makes it my personal favorite song from them, in my opinion. I'm getting a bit tired, if you can tell. I'm going a bit faster. Next song, 49, is Honey Power by My Bloody Valentine. My personal favorite MBV song. They're not necessarily my favorite shoegaze bands, but I do really love this song. It's basically like an EP after, I believe, Flawless. That was the last thing they did before the hiatus. But this is my favorite from them because it's just a very noisy, spiraling song. But I always love the songs the most where Belinda Butcher is singing on. And she is like a main vocalist on there. So vocals are just perfect because she has a gorgeous voice. I love her vocals. And I also just love how just eccentric and how emotional, just how passionate the song sounds. Like the layers of shoegaze, the noise, and especially like the last minute of the song where they jammed out for 3 minutes or something, and then it goes into that psychedelic ambient drone noise where it just spirals out into. I'm like, that's gorgeous. That's absolutely gorgeous when they do, and when they like harmonize with the humming noises. I'm like, that's fucking adorable. I love My Bloody Valentine for that, and they've always been a great band in my opinion. But I had difficult to get into their noise bits, but this song just embraces that noise, and I'm like, yeah, this is the best. This is the best fucking song ever. Well, in my opinion, the 49's best song ever, but who's counting, right? Next one is also a very long, dense song, which can't really talk about it too long because I'm already 2 hours in. Impossible Soul by Sufjan Stevens. This is like an 18 minutes or something, maybe longer, fucking progressive pop anthem. So it's basically like Kate Bush inspired. And it's just so rich with layers, and emotion. And if you know Sufjan Stevens, he gets very personal and like in depth with his emotions. So it's not really a song that I can describe, but I have it linked for you right there. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. And this is just the absolute peak of his career, in my opinion. Just the layers and just how much content there is on this song alone. It's just incredible to me. And that's just one song of the Age of Ads, which is my favorite Sufjan Stevens album. Incredible. Next song is even longer, which is Octavarium by Dream Theater. I believe 24 minutes long. And this is a epic prog metal masterpiece. This is arguably the greatest progressive metal song ever made. It's not my personal favorite because it is 24 minutes long, and I don't always listen to 24 minutes long ass prog songs because I'm not always in a mood. So Dream Theater is a band that I don't really listen to on that basis anymore because their albums are long as shit, and I have better things to do, right? Or maybe not. But yeah, Dream Theater, they just go out with so many things that it is just kind of difficult to get to them because their songs are just so long as shit. Like basically, you can just watch an entire episode of like Hunter, X Hunter, or even Galleon. It would be the same equivalent to Octavarium. Like you can watch an entire Hunter episode. Like that's insane. That's insane, right? I just did that, but yeah, that's mad. I'm like, is it worth it? Is it really worth to listen to 24 minutes of this? And I would say yes, it is a masterpiece. If you know Octavarium, you know why it's great. If you don't, listen to it. It is an essential, especially the score version from the live version of 2005, I believe. Listen to that. It's amazing. It's unforgettable. If you hear that, you know, if you're not hooked by that, then you're not doing it right. But just keep listening to that. It's incredible. Next song, Battle Against Time by Wintersun. Wintersun is this kind of weird power metal band, like melodic death metal, bit folky. And I love this song because it just sounds well with almost every song. It sounds like they're going into battle. Because I believe the lead singer of this band left Encifrum because he didn't have time anymore for Encifrum. And he basically just made this band, and it arguably sounds even tighter than Encifrum, which is kind of insane, right? You would say, but yeah, I had this linked up with like a Berserk video, and every time when they would go into battle in that video with Berserk, and when Guts would just like slash the shit out of everyone, and the song would just get more anthemic and faster, I'm like, what? It's just absolutely insane, right? It's just absolutely insane how fast he goes on all the songs. I just think it's incredible. And it's another kind of like one of those battle songs from Encifrum, but it's twice the length. I'm like, yeah, but it keeps that momentum. I'm like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. And for those reasons, it's just always kind of stayed my personal favorite from Wintersun. Either this or Winter Madness, which is just this fucking heavy ass, sprawling, fast as fuck song, which I love. So you could pick either of those. They're both amazing, but my personal favorite at the moment goes for Battle Against Time. Probably because of Berserk, because it's great, right? AMVs for the win. Funny enough, this next one was kind of a band that I kind of switched on and off because I was a pretty big fan of them. I can almost point them like that one, if you can see it. Yeah, there you go. That's not my favorite album anymore, but I pointed at Death, and Death is a pretty mainstream kind of death metal band. And that's weird because Death arguably created like technical death metal and progressive death metal. Like they're a pretty, technical and what would you call it? a pretty inspirational band. Like they're very influential. So I would say they also created death metal. Most people would say Possessed, but Chuck was you know a better person than the singer of Possessed because he likes to text children. Just saying. Just saying. It's not a great look, but even besides that, I still would say that Death is more in an actual death metal sound, whereas Possess is more like thrash death, like Sepultura. And I like that style as well, but I mean, it's not. I say that death sounded more like death metal. Call me crazy, but that's just how I see it. And my favorite song from them at the moment is Perennial Quest, which was originally designed to be the last Death song, which it sounds like a perfect outro to Death. Because you have these sprawling, these like heavy ass riffs, but it's also very progressive. It's almost sounds like just a prog metal song. But I just love how much like riff salads he throws in there. Chuck's voice, of course, very heavy, growly, and just perfect for this kind of sound. Also, just yeah, I just love the grooves on this record, especially this song when it also like it's very technical, like kind of riff salad, like just prog death. It's just like nerd shit. It's just like nerd spazzing out on a guitar for 8 minutes. And that's probably what makes it my favorite because it's so weird, noodly, and all over the place. It's very technical, and that just keeps it fun. It just keeps it fun and engaging to come back to the record. I especially love the riff towards the middle section where it goes like. And the tone just gets heavier. It sounds like they're down tuning more and more to make it a heavier sound. And also those drum parts are amazing. So every conceivable second of that song is just ingrained into my head, and I'm like, yeah, this is fucking great. I love every second of the song. So yeah, it's my it's my personal favorite Death song, and definitely the one I would recommend if you like a bit more prog and technicality in your music. If you don't, then listen to the first two albums and be happy about that. They're always just great. Like regular Death, like early Death is great, late Death is great. The technical weird era where he was dating Cynic or he was lining up Cynic members on Human, that was great. Everything Death is great. Maybe except for the spiritual healing touring, that was maybe a bit less practical, but you can't have it all, right? But Death was, Chuck Schuldiner was as close to perfection as you can get in death metal, and especially, also the sound of Perseverance pretty great. So Death is flawless. They're a spotless band. And Perennial Quest is my absolute favorite from them. Absolute great song. Love it. We're going away from the metal for a bit. And I have probably the most accessible song yet on this album or on this video. I'm not making an album yet, but my 44th pick is Pyramids by Frank Ocean. And this is my favorite kind of R&B kind of soul track. I originally had Stevie Wonder on here. Stevie Wonder Ass. That's a great song. But it's a bit too old-fashioned for me. Like, there wasn't a lot going on there, but it is a very great sounding song. Like, I'm not shitting on Stevie Wonder. Like, Ass is a gorgeous song. Not denying that, but it's a bit old-fashioned, It's a bit of a classic. So it's hard for me to really go back to that kind of sound because it's a bit dated. But this song is as timeless as ever. It's like almost 10 minutes long. It has these like gorgeous like synth openings, these kind of piano notes, and if you know how Frank Ocean sings, just an absolute angel, just gorgeous vocals, and just the way the song sounds and builds soundscapes, and just the way it just kind of changes on you, like the beat switches and just how it sounds in general is just absolutely incredible. The production on this thing is gorgeous. His vocals gorgeous. The lyrical content, or just the way he sings it, and just how he portrays it to his listeners, just amazing. I'm like, everything about the song is amazing. So how can you shit on this? It's a perfect kind of R&B song. The most perfect one I've heard yet, I would say. So if there are better songs than Pyramids, I would love to hear them. But Pyramids at the moment is my absolute favorite from, I would say, R&B. It's the greatest R&B song I've ever heard in my life. So if there's better out there, I know of Stevie Wonder, if you can call it R&B. I've heard of Lauryn Hill. I've heard the classics. Marvin Gaye. I know that as well, but I wasn't really into that personally. But yeah, Pyramid is my personal all-time favorite. So definitely would recommend. Next one is a bit of a cheeky one, which is Hazard Duty Pay by JPEG Mafia, which is a very like kind of sporadic, kind of this weird, chaotic kind of industrial hip hop song where JPEG is just shouting over everything, and he's just like kind of making a mess out of it like he usually would. But I just love that kind of sound that he does, because he's just very crazy. It sounds very unstable and chaotic wherever he's gonna go. But wherever he's gonna go, it's always just fun and interesting to listen to. So for those reasons, I think it's always just great to listen to it. It's probably his best one yet, I would say, and I think the most recent song I have on this list, which is from 2020. So yeah, 4-year-old song is for me. For me, that's probably the newest song on here. So there you go. That's in today's age they will call it a banger. So there you go. There's one banger for you. Then we have Not Yet by Denzel Curry, which is my favorite, probably my favorite Curry song. And I just love how hard and heavy he hits on there. Like he just doesn't give a fuck, and he just goes all out on the energetic punches. And I think for those reasons, it's always just fun to listen to this. It's always just fun to throw this on and just have a good time to it. So, yeah, I mean, Denzel and JPEG just kind of go like peanut butter and jelly. Like, both great, both pretty exciting to listen to. So, the bars, the energy that Denzel throws on there is just unmatched. Like, he's just very fun to listen to, and I think that on Noddy Hat he excels the most at that energetic personality. So definitely comes highly recommended. Next song is Selkies by Between the Bear and Me, Back to Metal. This is my favorite Between the Bear and Me song. I would still say that Colors is my personal favorite metalcore album. But this song always just hits me the most because it sounds a bit more emotional, a bit more pop centric, so it's easier to get into. I just love the kind of the intro, like that kind of synthesizer intro when it goes into the riffs, and I especially love like the last 2 minutes when it sounds like an emotional breakcore kind of sound, like breakdown metalcore kind of sound. It almost sounds like emo in a way, but with metalcore breakdowns. It's pretty great. So it's basically Bullet for My Valentine, but not shitty, right? So that's great. That's great. This is also a really good one, which is For to End Yet Again by Arcturus, which is this very weird kind of symphonic ballad kind of song. It sounds very emotional and ambient, but I just love the kind of symphonic riffs on there. And especially when you get into those vocals, like those harmonized vocals where they're like, for to end, yet again. I can't sing for shit, but I just absolutely love his voice on there. I just think it's gorgeous. And for those reasons, it's always been kind of like one of my personal favorites. because it gives you the riffs, it gives you the great voice, it gives you the symphonic elements to the record, which makes Arctur such a great band. And for those reasons, it always has been my personal favorite because it just has everything I love about Arcturus and more in that one particular song. So yeah, just a perfect metal song in my opinion, perfect symphony in a way, bittersweet symphony. Yeah, that's not on there sadly, but this one is great symphony. This is also Chef's Kiss. This is a gorgeous song. This is Xavier by Death Can Dance. And I've already talked about Death Can Dance on a previous video. I described them earlier as well as like this funeral death church band that basically just sounds like they're carrying you into your fucking grave, into your own funeral service. That's how this entire album sounds. But especially Xavier just sounds like the most beautiful, eclectic, just this very classical, dark sound where you have this guy that sings over that composition. He's like, I can't replicate his vocals, but gorgeous voice. Like this is my favorite male singer right here. Like the dude in Death Can Dance, beautiful vocals. I love his delivery. His tone is perfect. The tone of this overall record is amazing, and him singing over that is just amazing. Like I can't describe how good this is. This is just an absolute amazing album, and you would do yourself like kind of a disservice if you don't listen to the song. Like it's not like a heavy, like a pummeling EDM song. So for like Gen Z, it might be difficult to get into. But if you are a patient listener and you're really into like those like dark, brooding kind of vibes, then Xavier is like the peak of that dark wave sound. Like I haven't heard a song that's more beautiful and more just to the point to what it wants to be in one song, like Xavier. It's perfection. It's a perfect dark wave song. Absolutely gorgeous, absolutely stunning. Just listen to it. This is a must listen right here. This is a must listen song. Arguably, my entire list is must listen, but especially Xavier is a must listen. Like, if you don't listen to that song and you are not impressed by it, I don't want to. I don't want to be an elitist, but you're kind of an idiot if you don't like this song. Like, just listen to it. It's gorgeous. It's fucking gorgeous. It's a masterpiece. Yeah, these lists kind of make me an elitist again, but I mean, if you're like a music nerd, you're kind of always are kind of an anal elitist. So old habits die hard, I suppose. Another amazing song, good man, good morning USA, good morning Captain by Slint. This is my, would I say my favorite post rock song? Maybe India is probably my favorite band, but Slint is probably my favorite. Like this song is probably my favorite post rock song because it's a very dark and creepy kind of record at the beginning, and then comes it comes with these like riffs or like these these heavy soundscapes. You get these post-hardcore breakdowns, and they arguably invented both styles, like post-hardcore and post-rock. Like I think literally Slint invented that style of music. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Slint was the first one to do that. If not, they're still the first band I ever gave a fuck about in that style. So who's counting? So yeah, I think it's great. I think it's absolutely just stunning to hear it. I think it's great. And for those reasons, I always just considered it a favorite because, especially when you get to like those less kind of riffs, and when it gets heavier and heavier, and he's screaming in the mic, "I miss you, I fucking miss you," and they're having like an emotional breakdown post-hardcore session while he's singing, "I miss you," and like he's losing his fucking mind over that, and they're just like breaking down on the guitar over and over again. And I'm like, yeah, this dude, he got his heart broken. Like fuck, man. I feel for him. This used to be like my number two favorite song, but yeah, it has kind of slipped down in favoritism because it is a pretty fucking slow and ambient, dark kind of song. So you have to be in the right headspace to really get into this record. But when I am into this record, I'm just like, wow, someone broke this, dude. It's pretty hard. So yeah, it's pretty heavy. It's pretty dark, and for those reasons, I always just loved the style of it. It's amazing. Another amazing song, which is not very cheerful, is "Blood Hill" by Have a Nice Life. Basically, this very dark, heavy ass post punk band that I just love their gothic rock sound and just their shoegaze aesthetic is just amazing. And Blood Hill is just kind of the contextual king of that entire genre, arguably, or it sounds the richest. Especially when you get to like the near ending when it just gets heavier and darker. It just sounds like you're falling into the abyss, like deeper and deeper. It's an amazing sound, amazing atmosphere, and I can't recommend it enough. Amazing. 36 is The Battle of Waterloo by Running Wild. Basically the most epic power metal song ever. Yeah, so basically just an historical lesson about the Waterloo battle. And it can be more epic when Running Wild plays it. It's just an absolute stunner of a song. It's not really something I can explain, but it is something that I can't recommend enough because it is just, in my opinion, the most epic power metal moment ever. And it closes out Death for Glory, the Death for Glory album. So you can't get more perfect than that. Just a perfect power metal song. Absolute perfection. 35 Snow Beach by Rat King, which is a hip hop song about, I think it's like similar to Black Sabbath Snowblind, where you're staring into the snow and you're getting blind. Something like that, or it's just snowing at the beach. Something like that. It's like the 6 minute abstract hip hop song, East Coast, from very young talented MCs that are basically just competing with each other. And this was the most ambitious song of the album, I would say, or in my opinion, the most catchy and returnable song. It's just very fun to listen to. I've heard this album like 100 times and I'm still not tired of it. And Snow Beach is the absolute pinnacle of these young talented men's career, which is very sad because they've never really made another record since. But this has always been my personal favorite from them. So great sound. Next one is a classic. Of course, I had to include Yes. Yes has to be on there because Yes is just an absolutely classic band that I just can't exclude. They're just so essential. And my favorite song of them is like maybe not a surprise. It's still relatively popular. It's always been my kind of my personal favorite, which is Heart of the Sunrise from Yes, from the Fragile album, which is I think their most popular album or close to the edge. But Fragile has always been kind of like the most fun and catchy album to listen to. So I've always just kind of enjoyed it the most. I know basic bitch moment, but what can I say? Yes is great, and especially where you get to like, that's amazing. Just a proggy ass nerd dorky ass prog song that just spirals out like that. Like that's the last song. I'm like, yeah, that's great. That's a great song. Love that. Yes is just great. Like who doesn't like Yes? Yes. Great. Next song, International by Sweet Trap. This is arguably my favorite IDM song. I just love how rich and just how layered this song is. Like, there's just so many layers on top of layers, where the band is essentially just, yeah, just putting electronic, just EDM layers on top of each other and just seeing how it works out. There are parts where it just gets acoustic. There are parts where it just entirely breaks down with an acoustic guitar, and the female vocalist sings over that while these fucking crazy ass IDM beats swirl into her world, but just very lightly, like very in the back, while her voice takes over the mix. And when you hear that, when you get into the part of International, it's just amazing. It's just an eargasm. Like everything where you can have an orgasm, that's basically this song. Like wherever you're holding it, you're getting creams. Like it's just one of those songs where every time where you play it, every time where you hear it, especially when you're in that kind of like the drowsy kind of relaxing mood, this is just the absolute peak of this band. Like sweet trap IDM, like just the Velocity album, just how rich already it sounds, and then International being the absolute peak of that album is just amazing. Like this album is amazing, and International is just the absolute crowning achievement of that album, which is crazy because already just love, I already just love that sound, and I love it even more now. So Sweet Trev, amazing bands. Amazing. If someone can get that for me on vinyl, because it's expensive as fuck, if someone can get that for me, you mean the world to me. That would mean the world to me, for sure. Another song that gets me very emotional is Join Me in Death by Him. And Him is a personal band for me because they're kind of this love or hate band because not everyone is into like a Him era or a Him phase. And Him is one of those bands kind of similar to like Linkin Park or Slipknot, where your parents are basically saying to you, it's a phase, son, grow out of it, you will never like this kind of stuff, blah, 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 blah. You know, they will basically just scoff at you because they think it's just a running fad, just a phase that will go away. And I'm here like, hey mom, I still love Him, I still got my Him shirt. It's like in my bedroom, but I still got my Him shirt, motherfucker. Like, come at me. So yeah, I just love this band. I just love how Vil Vallow sings. I just think he's a great singer, and just the overall kind of tone that he has in his voice, and just how much emotion he puts into it is just amazing. Like with the piano and the riffs, it's all very like kind of basic and kind of straight to the point. But I just love how rich and emotional these guys sound. It sounds like they actually would die for you writing this kind of music. Like their heart's actually in it, which is very rare for musicians nowadays because everything just sounds so manufactured and boring. But him actually sounded like a band with compassion and kind of just a passion for music, like very passionate indeed. And Join Me in That is probably the best example of that sound. So I'm like, yeah, listen to it. It's great. Another song that gets me kind of emotional is Flood. Like you can include the entire album. I would personally go for Flood Part 2 or 3. Now I would say 3. It's a bit heavier. It's a bit more on the breakdowns. But this is essentially my favorite drone album. It's just very slow and just very like brooding and just very it's just a very slow paced album. You know, that's what drone is. But I love this kind of sound because it's a bit more post rocky and a bit more on the drone metal side because Boris is a bit more metal and sludgy. So you get those elements as well while it's also just being drone. So it's essentially the perfect bedtime album, but it's also just perfect for just getting high or like just doing some like relaxed shit, you know, just gaming or like hanging out, you know. It's just fun for that. So it's just a perfect album for those situations. And because I'm usually in a kind of relaxed mood, I'm always just into the mood to blast Boris. Like this is just an amazing album. So I always just love it front to back. Next one is not so easy to put on, which is Masodic Galump by Venetian Snares, which is basically this weird ass song. Like this is my favorite breakcore artist, where you have this dude that is basically just breaking down these records, and there's like an intro sequence of like a lady that's talking to a bird and saying like, "Pigeon, why are you scared of me? Pigeon, what the pigeon? Why are you afraid to come? Baba." You know, something like that. Like that bitch is just paranoid talking to birds and shit. But it's pretty fun. And then you get this insane breakdown of this artist that is basically just putting all these beats together. It sounds classical, like this has classical tinges. Then it is like dun 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 dun, and then you get a few sprinkles of dun dun dun, where it's basically just a modern classical record, and then dun 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 dun, and then it's just back to Breaker City. Like it's spoken word, it's classical, it's breaker heavy. It has all these weird ass fluctuations with sounds that it's always just fun and engaging to listen to because you never know what's gonna come. It's just such a weird ass inconsistent record that is always just fun. I'm never bored of this. I'm like, you throw this on like 30 times in a row and I'm still not tired of it. Like that's how amazing it is. I'm like, what? I was not aware that music would sound like that. Like I think I said that a few times before, but there are just some amazing songs in there where I'm like, wow, fuck me. That's huge. That's insane. So yeah, I'm just absolutely in love with how this sounds. This is my favorite song of the album. So the entire album is amazing, but especially this song is just peak. In my opinion, it's peak. Another song that is definitely easy on the ears, which is probably the closest thing on air that I have as a jazz song, which is Deacon Blues by Steely Dan, which is my favorite kind of jazz rock, kind of loungy bands, pop rock. And it's basically this very chilled out, relaxing kind of song where they're just singing. It basically just sounds like a lounge band, like you're listening to like a jazz band in the back. But yeah, the vocals are very clean. It's kind of sounds like a cityscape album sometimes, and sometimes it just sounds like a relaxing jazz tune, like jazz pop. It's very pretty. Like it sounds like you're listening to Jubilee Cruise, but with an actual like band backing her up, something like that. It's just an absolutely amazing sound. I just love how rich and full this album sounds. It just sounds full of life and excitement, and it just sounds like you're having a great time with Steely Dan. Like, if you're listening to Steely Dan and they don't make you happy, or you don't get like cozy while you're listening to like Aja or the Dirty Work album, or how was the first album called again? I'm just thinking of album titles like Reeling in the Years, Do It Again. That one. Can't Buy a Thrill. I think that was the name. I'm just gonna bet on that. I'm not gonna look it up because I still got a shitload of songs to do. But it's a great song, great album, a perfect sounding album. Like Aja. Who doesn't like Aja? Like, come on, it's a perfect sounding album. And Deacon Blues is the pinnacle of that album for sure. 28 is my favorite heavy metal song, which is Sweet Sister Mary from Queensryche, which is this weird long ass song which opens up with like a taxi cab or like an auto cab opening up to talk to the main character, and the villain, the antagonist of the story, is like, "Hey, you know that lady Mary, that Mary lady that you're dating, that is like a prostitute that's pretending to be a nun. Yeah, kill that bitch. Kill that bitch in cold blood. Kill her tonight. Mary? Do I have to kill Mary?" And he's like, "Yeah, kill her. Oh, and take the priest as well." And then he's closing down the window again, and he's going, and he's like, "Yeah, good luck, fucker, kill her." While you're having all these emotional baggage with her, you have this emotional attachment to this lady. If you follow the conceptual basis of Operation Mindcrime, it's pretty cheesy, but I really like it as a concept in music, in metal. It's easily my favorite metal concept because I've never really cared for concept albums, but Operation Mindcrime is like so like atmospheric and just like easy to follow that it's just kind of hard to not get intrigued by it, to not get endeared by the experience. And Sweet Sister Mary is just kind of like the centerpiece of the record, where they're just like, "Do I want to kill her? Do I want to keep her alive?" And you're just like, they're screaming at each other to like save each other, but they're desperate, they're down bad, but they're also very filled with emotion, so they're coming back at each other. And like, I believe Chris DeGarmo, which is the guitarist of the band, he's just like plays his ass off. Like him, the riffs, the drummer as well is going crazy. Well, Judith, I believe her name is Judith on, no, not Judith. Yeah, I'm thinking about Judith Mari from, Maynard James Keenan's mother. But no, Mary. He's like, oh, do I have to kill Mary? I don't want to kill her, but I have to do it. Oh, fuck, I'm in this contractual obligation to do it. But he's also kind of falling in love with her, so he's kind of like, fuck, what I have to do. And while, he's contemplating that, the song is just going ape shit. Like, you have these operatic vocals as well, these backing vocals in the back where actual, like a choir's playing. The drums are going ape shit. The guitar is going ape shit. Jeff Taylor just singing his heart out. He's like trying to out-sing Mary. And Mary has an insane vocal range as well. I'm like, fuck. Everyone on this song is trying to compete to be the best musician in the band. And I'm like, yeah, you're all fucking great. Like, hire Marie for the band. Her voice is insane. I've heard her on the live version that I've linked on the documents, and she is just singing her heart out. It sounds like her soul is leaving her body while she's screaming at Jeff Tate. I'm like, fuck. And Jeff Tate is supposed to be like the protagonist, I believe, of the story. So you can believe that he's dating Mary because he's like the centerpiece of the band, like singer. And I'm like, wow. Like everything about it is fucking great. Like the team, the sound, the tone, the singer, every musician in this band, even the played character in the back, Marie, even she is great. I'm like, what? Everything here is amazing. I'm like, what? How can you fucking do this? Like, they're basically theater kids playing like a theater show, and it sounds somehow amazing. Like, how the fuck do you do that? Because I hate theaters. And Quintrack didn't make it suck. I'm like, what? It's great. Fuck. Yeah, so amazing song. I can't. I'm kind of speechless. It's just an amazing song in my opinion. Next song, which is also a bit proggy, also a bit on the operatic side, which is Confrontation by Ariel. Basically, this very moody ambient song that spirals out later. And I believe James Lerby and Michael Eckerfeld are also on this record. They did a conceptual bass with him. And there's also like a very high registered vocalist on there. It sounds a bit like the singer from Dragon Force almost. Like a very high power metal-esque voice. I'm not sure. It might just be Ariel. I haven't really heard him a lot. But I just love the overall tone and the aesthetic of the record, and especially when it goes into those fast-ass riffs at the ending, and then it just shuts down completely. Like, it's like a simulation just having a breakdown. I believe that they're also saying, like, simulation ended. Goodbye. And that's just how the whole album ends. And this is the last song of the album, which I always just found the most amazing in my opinion. And here is the band that I thought I forgot, but they're here. Which, of course, is arguably my favorite band ever, the Mars Volta, with their album, Friends of the Mute, of course, best album. And I picked Cassandra Gemini as my favorite song. And not the entire, like, half-hour section of it, because you have to be on drugs to fully get into that. But, yeah, I just love the first part, where it's just called Cassandra Gemini. It's very psychedelic, weird, just out there, and just weird as shit to listen to. And I just love that sound. I just think that's incredible. That's the best part of that album, I would say. So for those reasons, because it is so psychedelic and just so all over the place, if you know Mars Volta, then this is basically the essential sound of their entire career. Like, if you want to know how Mars Volta sounds, Cassandra Gemini is kind of the blueprint for you. It's the perfect sound for them, in my opinion. The next song, fuck, I'm so tired. Next song is Stargazer by Rainbow. This shit pumps from life into me because Rainbow, Ronnie James Dio just has the most amazing voice. Like, I'm fucking toast after this, but that dude can sing his heart out. Like Ronnie James Dio, just an amazing musician, just great. And Richie Blackmore, of course, backing Rainbow, also amazing. Just a great overall sound. And I just think that this, Stargate, like saying Stargazer is great is like saying, water makes you wet, sky's blue, water's wet, stuff like that, like grass is green. Like it's as obvious as that. Like if you don't like Stargazer, like what's wrong with you? The drum intro, the way Ron James Dio sings, the way it evolves, the guitar solo from Richie Blackmore, amazing. Like everything about the song is amazing. There's nothing wrong with it. The only thing that you could debate is a bit on the low side is the production. The production is a bit shallow. The production is a bit paper thin. So everything sounds like it's coming through like a tin can. So that's not great. But besides the kind of tin production, the sound here is perfect. So if someone would remaster this album, like the Rising album, and just put it in like full enhancement dynamic sound, like some death metal albums got, if they got the same treatment, then I think that this could be the greatest sounding hard rock album, heavy metal album ever made. Maybe this, for now, I would say Operation Mindcrime still sounds a bit timeless to me. But yes, Stargazer, I mean, that song is just flawless. Like the vocals, the drums, Koji Powell, Ronnie Jim Dio, Richie Blackmore in that soulful bridge solo that he does, amazing. That's just flawless. And just when Ronnie James Dio at the outro he sings, "I'm coming home, I'm coming the fuck home." When he raises his hands in the music video and he's just putting it out all out there. I'm like, fuck, that's so good. Like when that moment hits and when you're into that groove of Rainbow, when you're into that record, that's the most amazing sound. Like if you don't enjoy those symphonies, like Richie Blackmore's soulful playing, and when Ron James Dio screams, if you don't enjoy that, you're dumb. You're an actual idiot. Like who doesn't like that? Like I don't want to get all snobbery on people, but like you have to be an actual idiot to not enjoy that. Like that's perfection. That's a perfect song. Like Stargazer is a perfect song. Like how can you not like that? like it's kind of the same thing with Bohemian Rhapsody. Like it's such a perfectly crafted song, and that's not on here by the way because I've heard it too much. But it's kind of like one of those songs. Like it's perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. So you can't say anything about it except the Tim production. But everything about it is perfect. So just remaster it and call it a day, right? Yeah, just a perfect song, and it's created power metal. Like it's created Running Wild, Blind Guardian, Halloween. So even if you don't like Rainbow, you have to appreciate Rainbow for creating that sound. Same thing as with Black Sabbath for heavy metal. You're kind of an idiot if you don't like that because they literally created that sound. So why wouldn't you like that? And they're also just great. So there you go. Also done the Black Sabbath on there. Might be controversial, but I do enjoy Rainbow a bit more. So there you go. Next song, which I absolutely adore, is Koi no Mega Lover by Maximum the Hormone. Just a very hardcore, sporadic, just a very energetic song. It just goes at your throat and doesn't like go until the very end. But it also sounds like a J-pop song, and it's kind of the best of both worlds. So I think for those reasons, it's pretty great. I love the sound. It's very catchy and timing, but it's also just apeshit insane. It's just kind of the best of both worlds, so love it. Next song, Send Them to the Essence by Lil Ugly Man. This is kind of, I believe, his most, arguably his most popular song. I think it was one of his more popular songs, but I don't have it on Spotify or not on the Mr. Turk Isolation album, but it is included on there according to Raging Music. But it is my favorite. It's just such a heavy, dark song. It sounds like he's walking through a graveyard, but it also sounds grimy as fuck and like he's gonna murder some people there, or like some guards or something that are actually alive to murder. You know, like yeah, people be dead there, obviously, but yeah, it's just kind of a really grimy and dark song, and that's what I really like about it. It's also just 6 minutes long. It's always just goes crazy shit. So I always just really like the song. I just love the grimy, gloomy tone that it has, but it also just goes hard as fuck. It's not only like a really slow and ambient song, but it's also just an insanely hard ass hardcore hip hop song with like a gloomy ass tone. So kind of similar to Dialect, but even harder than that, I would say. So it's always been a favorite of mine. Another favorite of mine, obviously, is Window Liquor by Avex Twin, which is arguably the most iconic IDM song or IDM artist ever made. And this is a weird ass song. Like, I don't think that a lot of people around me would like it because it is so weird, so experimental, so just out there. Like, it's very difficult to kind of get into a groove with Window Liquor because it is such a weird ass song. But at the same time, I do really fancy it because it is so out there. It has so many weird layers of just trippiness that it goes after. And then at the ending, when it just goes balls out with that hard ass beat, I'm just like, that's basically just an EDM orgasm. Like that's how that sounds to me. And even in the music video, they're popping a champagne bottle around their dick hole. So they're like, yeah, spray and pray, bitch, here, take it. So it's almost like a visual orgasm. That's how Avex Twin portrays it in the video. So I'm like, yeah, it sounds like that, and he literally does that. So I'm like, yeah, this is an IDM orgasm to me. So yeah, don't take it out of context, but there you go. That is pretty much a perfect RDM song with a perfect breakdown, which I have some Prevenic language for that. Kids, don't watch it, please, because you will be scarred. Um, Another song that I wouldn't recommend to kids or basically anyone that hasn't really have a high tolerance level of patience is In Fiction by ISIS. Basically, my favorite sludge metal band. And this isn't as dirty sounding as Godflash, but ISIS is great because they're just these weird ass, like this very quiet, moody band that is basically just going for a record, going for a sound, just really laying it out there, just really going for that ambient sound. And this used to be my all-time favorite song, but it did kind of drop below because it does need a long time to build up. But when you do get at that near ending and it just breaks down around the 7 minute mark, I believe, it just it's just an actual orgasm of metal. Like again with the climax, but it's just the best sounding breakdown that I've ever heard in metal. Like In Fiction breakdown, that's just peak right there. And just the overall tone and atmosphere of that album is just amazing. I like the atmosphere better of Oceanic, so I enjoyed it more as an album. But In Fiction is probably still my favorite song from ISIS, if that makes sense. I just think that the latter half of how's the album called again? I'm so fucking tired. That album was called. I want to say Oceanic again. Yeah, I'm kind of obsessed with that album. So how we call it? Panopticon. There you go. Every time when I type it in, when I want to type it in, I remember for some reason. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, my Google Docs. There you go. I'm getting tired of looking at a widescreen because Google can't enable fucking black screen, I believe. So that's annoying. I haven't discovered it at least. Next song is a very easygoing song, Northern Sky by Nick Drake. Probably the most accessible song to get into of this list. Maybe with Julia Holter and Gorillaz. But Nick Drake is very special to me because he always just kind of sounded like this lullaby artist, like kind of like it almost sounds like you're falling asleep to Nick Drake, but not in a boring, like kind of Godspeed or Sigur Rós style, like that very boring, brooding sound. But actually, like a composer that is there for you, that's kind of has his acoustic guitar there, and he just plays the most beautiful riffs ever. Like the way he composes this, the way he sings on it, the way the production around him sounds gorgeous. Like this song is gorgeous. Like everything around it, his vocals, the guitar playing, the instrumentation around it, the production, the lyrics, everything sounds inspiring, happy, cheerful. And that's kind of a pattern with me because with some songs it sounds very dark and gloomy, and with other songs it just sounds like a happy pep talk or something. Like it just sounds like the world is sunshine and rainbows. Like this is just a very comfy song. I just love the overall sound of it. The Nick Drake just makes me happy. Like he was a pretty depressed dude, and it was pretty sad to see him go. Like I still miss him. Like I fucking love Nick Drake. So it's just it makes me really sad to just think about his death because he was such an amazing artist, and I almost got a bit emotional because I'm like, such a talented young man has to go so early. Like he wasn't even here. Like 30 years later, my Ugly Ass was born, and he already made 3 masterpieces. And I'm like, fuck. If only I could have met him. I was like, Nick Drake, you're amazing to me. Fuck the journalist. You're amazing to me. If only someone was there for him to say that, man. I'm like, it's so sad. I'm like, now we have this garbage like Neutral Milk Hotel and this bullshit like Elliott Smith. I'm like, this is just this meandering hipster garbage. I'm like, no, I want Nick Drake. Yeah, that makes me very sad. I'm like, fuck, Nick Drake was like the actual folk guy that I like. Why do the good guys go? I'm so sad right now, but Northern Sky is an absolute masterpiece. don't mind my ramblings, but yeah, Northern Sky, like, it's a beautiful song. Like, if you don't think that song is good, you're deaf. That's basically my argument for every song so far. If you don't think that, you're this, But it's true. I mean, if you heard Northern Sky, just click on that link right there. Just play my indie game for a bit. Come on now. Yeah, next song is Lazy Eye by Silver Sun Pickups, which is also a beautiful song. It's basically this indie shoegaze kind of record, but which they basically just go for like a kind of pop sound. It's basically just My Bloody Valentine, but a bit more easy on the ears. But later it does get very noisy and ecstatic. So it does get a bit harder on the ears, but that's only over time if you're really into the jam. So you're kind of getting lulled into the sound, which makes it arguably the most accessible shoegaze band. But I will get back to that later. But yeah, Lazy Eye is just an absolute gorgeous song. Just the layers on it, just the fact that they can make like a 6-minute indie song, shoegaze just spiral out and it can still get on the radio. It's just amazing to me. Of course, the radio edit is there, but the complete song has always been the all-time favorite for me, and it has sounded the most amazing to me. So it's always been my favorite song from theirs. Next song, which is a bit controversial maybe, but I love this guy, Kanye West with Monster. Nowadays, you would kind of call him a monster because he is a pretty awful person. With the whole I love Seek Hell dude, I'm not gonna do that because I kind of want to keep this video up, but the mustache guy, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Was he a good dude? If you have to throw that in there, you kind of lost the plot there. I'm like, Kanye, bro, come on. It's sad because he's made it in my top 20. Like, he's so talented. I'm like, he made it above Nick Drake and Rainbow. I'm like, dude, you're fucking good. Stop being so dumb. Come on, man. You're good. Or you were good. You were good to me, but no more. But yeah, this is basically just a song with Jay-Z, Rick Ross, Nicki Minaj, and just spitting on there. Just every verse goes hard as fuck. And you just feel it. You just feel him going hard at everything. And I just love his energy on there. He's so passionate. He's so braggadocious and yeah, he just goes hard as fuck. And I appreciate him for that. So, great song. From arguably the blackest artist on there to the whitest is Steven Wilson with Porcupine. And my favorite Porcupine song is Anesthetize, which is this 70-minute long, epic ass, spiraling out progressive masterpiece where they're basically just jamming into like a psychedelic section. It sounds very concentrated and kind of sleep inducing, but in a good way, like meditative. And it just sounds so captivating to listen to. It's just a very interesting song, especially with the breakdowns and later, like when you're 10 minutes into the song, it just becomes a completely different song. Like, Steven Wilson is a genius. Like, the way he composes, the way he sings, the way he breaks down on this thing, everything about it is perfect. Like, there's not a flaw. So it had to be in there. I mean, come on, it's an essential. Another essential is Fascination Street by, I think I can show this. By this band. Can you see that? The Cure. There you go. I'm not wrapping that out because I'm lazy. But yeah, I mean, amazing band. I love Robert Smith. I love his lyrics. I love his poeticness. So everything about The Cure is amazing. And every time I hear the song, I'm just kind of like, wow. I'm just spiraled into a world of soundscapes and just a fascination. Street, because it just sounds so rich in atmosphere and just the overall gloomy tone that The Cure has, that they've kind of become my favorite post-punk band, which I never really considered before because I was always really into the Chameleons and Have a Nice Life. So I was like, I think I found my favorite band, but the Chameleons are a bit better hit or miss for me because sometimes I'm really into them, and sometimes I'm like, I can do with or without, but that and have a nice life is kind of like they're great, but they're a great sleep time band, but I wouldn't really listen to them throughout the day. And with The Cure, I can always just throw this on. Like, it's sketchy, it's anthemic, it's gloomy, it's full of despair, it's terror. It's just a very dark, grimy record, but it's also really catchy and anthemic. I'm like, how the fuck can you do that? That's so impressive. And Fascination Street has always been the song for me that stood out. So I'm like, yeah, that is my absolute favorite Cure song, and I love these guys now. So I'm just absolutely obsessed with Disintegration, and this is the absolute peak of that sound, in my opinion. Number 15 is Robert Smith's favorite person, Morrissey. And yeah, I did it kind of, I do kind of want to take the piss out of things, Cure and Smith's fans. They must be fuming right now. But honestly, I have to say, personally, I prefer The Cure. I think The Cure is a better band. They have way more records that are good. The Smiths have arguably better songs, if that makes sense. Like, they have better singles, but The Cure are a better band, if that makes sense. So The Cure might be my favorite band at the moment. The Smiths, not so much. They used to be. I still like some Morrissey solo albums, but besides from biases, like, how dumb have you have to be to not like How Soon Is Now? Like How Soon Is Now is basically this perfect psychedelic, like this progressive indie pop song that just has these layers and layers of psychedelia. It sounds like LSD. It sounds like every drug that gives you that enhancement vibe. And it just sounds like the band is fucking spiraling. Like they're using all these fucking layers in the studio. They're using all these pedals and these effects in the studios to give it so much depth and layers into that record. And especially when Morrissey's voice comes over that's just perfect in my opinion, because I love Morrissey's vocals and lyrics. And the way the song just keeps building up the layers and the layers is just insane. I just love how rich and deep this song sounds, and it just doesn't end. It's just 6 minutes long. It just goes on and on and on and on, and I'm like, this song is fucking amazing. Like, if this was on The Queen Is Dead, The Queen Is Dead would probably be on my favorites albums list. Like, that's how amazing it is. I was like, it is on Head Full of Hollow, but Head Full of Hollow has a bunch of demo songs. Like that, like I had it on my favorites list, but it was like, they really wanted on there for like one amazing song, and like all these shitty demo songs in between. I'm like, I can't do that, That's how much I like this song. I like it so much that I was considering putting a shitty album on my favorites list because of this one song, because of How Soon Is Now. That's how much I love it. So yeah, it's nearly top 10. It's like it's arguably the most perfect pop song I've ever heard in my life. Like, if you can create a song like How Soon Is Now, like you're just a good band. Like the Smiths are just good as fuck. Like, they're not necessarily my favorite band, but How Soon Is Now is an amazing song. I'm like, how can you not like that song? You're an idiot if you don't like that song. I mean, come on. Like, I don't want to be a snobhead, but that's just objective. How Soon Is Now is an objective amazing song. If you don't like that song, what's wrong with you? I mean, come on. So yeah, that's just peak right there. Like, you can tell if my bias comes up, then there's some shit going on. Next song is "Enjoy the Silence" by Depeche Mode, which is of course a classic. And I love the original. I think the original is great. Violator, one of the all-time great albums in my opinion. But honestly, I kind of prefer I think the 2012, something in that ball range, I believe. 2010s, 2020 maybe. From the Polyrhythmics, I believe. Some name like that. It's a band called Sonic Poly. And they have basically a sound where all of their covers are basically in a Hatsune Miku kind of style. And their Depeche Mode cover of "Enjoy the Silence" is my absolute favorite moment related to Depeche Mode. So of course I do want to enjoy, or I do want to put on "Enjoy the Silence." So it's there as like a template. So if you do prefer the original, it's still there. I still would consider it like almost top 10 for me, almost like a top 10 favorite song for me. But I personally slightly prefer the Hatsune Miku cover. I'm like, wow. Like, it's a bit more layered, it's a bit more atmospheric, it's a bit more just in there. I'm like, yeah, and just those kind of synth beats, like modernized for the modern age, still with a classic Depeche Mode synth pop style, with a synth pop sound, and just Hatsune Miku singing over that. I'm like, wow, that's fucking great. I was just amazed by how that sounded. So yeah, this is kind of like a split tie for me. Like, I love the original, so it is here as a template slash the Hatsune Miku cover. Like, I love them both, but I personally would prefer the Hatsune Miku cover. But I listen more to Violator, so I listen more to the original if that makes sense. So I love them both. I just wanted to mention the Hatsune Miku cover because it's gorgeous. It's an amazing cover. So I love them both, but yeah. Overall, amazing song. Like, that's a perfect pop song. Like How Soon Is Now, arguably like Fascination Street, if you want to call that a pop song. perfect pop songs. Great. This is a bit less pop eccentric. This is Hangar 18 by Megadeth. And it's been a while since I've talked positively about Megadeth, because in the past I was like, fuck Dave Mustaine because he sucks at vocals. But I'm like, yeah, you're listening to thrash metal. Like, do thrash metal bands really have good vocals? I mean, not really. It's not really an excuse to call him good or better though, but you know, he is shit. But shit and singing, I mean, Dave Mustaine as a guy seems chill, so I like him, but just the vocals are not great, so that's a bit unfortunate. But he is an intelligent guy, and he knows what the fuck he's talking about, and most of the time. And Hangar 18 is just one of these really weird, like alien-based songs where they're talking about, yeah, Hangar 18 is this military base where they're hiding aliens and shit, and it's a really interesting concept for a song. And it's thrash metal. It's like very technical and weird and just noodly. And they're also just talking about all these artificial scientific, you know, languages, and just this weird this weird science project, this weird alien base, but they're also just discussing about or singing about in the song. And I think that just makes for a great lyrical basis for a great content-based song. And also just the riffs on there, just great. The opening riff, especially when Marty Friedman shreds, and especially when Dave and Marty are just dueling towards the end. And you have that ending where it's like, you know, and when you get to the ending part, he's like basically just shredding his fucking skin off. Like, it's so fucking fast. I'm trying to imitate that sometimes, just air strumming, and I'm like, I cannot even type that fast. Like, what the fuck are you doing, Marty Friedman? Like, it's insane how fast he riffs. So that's just a mental song. I'm just in love with how that sounds. So that's an amazing sound. Love the fuck out of that. And yeah, I think it is the best thing that Dave Mustaine has ever made, in my opinion. It's the best song. It's the best thrash metal song. So, especially live at Hammersmith, 1992, it rips your fucking face off. It's insane. So be prepared, but it is great. I love it. Another song that is just love for me is Echoes by Pink Floyd, which is just this long ass psychedelic prog song. And I'm not necessarily a huge Pink Floyd fan, but Echoes live at Pompeii, that version that they do where they're just jamming out, they're just having a jam sesh, and like David Gilmour and Roger Waters just jamming out to that track the entire time with the vocals, is just wow, that's just magic. Like, every time I put it on, I'm like, can music sound like that? Apparently it can. It's pretty amazing. So I don't really want to give I usually don't really want to do, you know, give credit to Pink Floyd, because they're arguably the most boring band to talk about because everyone knows them. But I do really love this song. Like, I can't deny this song. Like, have you heard the quality, the soundscapes, the production, just the overall live scope of the sound of the song? It's incredible. So I can't recommend it enough. It's Echoes. I mean, what do you expect? It's fucking Echoes. Come on, man. Part 1, I mean, part 2 is a bit boring. You can listen to that, but I mainly love part 1. So I should specify that Echoes part 1 is nearly made my top 10, but yeah, there you go. Wasn't the top 10 for a long time, not anymore, but here comes my top 10. Or well, no, actually, Psych, that was 12. Number 11 is that one, which Model of the Well, which is, I think, almost in my top 10. Maybe favorite bands, but my 11th favorite song of all time is Heaven and Weak by Model of the Well, which is basically this very weird, ambient, kind of jazzy lounge song. It sounds a bit like Steely Dan at the beginning, but a bit more depressive, and that's pretty great. But then you have these riffs that just sprawl over each other, and the drums get very heavy, exciting, and the whole song just breaks out in this very sporadic way. And they're basically just becoming a death metal band. I don't know, or like this technical death metal band, and that's fucking great. I'm enjoying that. And yeah, I think wow, I wasn't aware that music could sound like that. I was like, fuck, and that's basically my favorite avant-garde moment right there, like with anything. So just an incredible sound. I'm like, what? I was just not aware that Molyneux Well would sound like that, like very ambient pop almost, like Julia Halter in a way. But then it just fucking breaks out and it almost becomes like death or morbid angel or something. Like it becomes just straight up like technical death metal, like suffocation or something. Like what the fuck? Like they turned from like Brian Eno or like Julia Walter to like fucking suffocation cannibal corpse. Like how can you make that change? That is insane. But Toby Driver is a genius. Like he can just do that. He can just turn on the switch and just go like that. And like fuck, that's amazing. I love that. So yeah, Mullen well, pretty amazing band. But if you've seen my videos and seen my content, then same thing. But if you've seen like my background and shit and my videos, then yeah, it's kind of obvious that I highly regard these guys. So there you go. Now for my actual top 10, I'm fucking tired, so I'm writing this out. Wood by Alice in Chains, which is my favorite grunge song. And I'm not always in the mood for grunge. I think grunge is a bit too, I don't know, a bit too tedious for me to go through because of the Yarly vocals. But Lane kind of composed himself on this record. And Wood especially is just such a gloomy, dark ass song that just goes all out and it just sounds incredible the way they make it sound. It's just a very fucking heavy song, but it's also very catchy and themic. But it's just full of death and despair. Like fuck, you're gonna die. But it's so catchy and fun to listen to, and it's such a catchy hook, you know. And like yeah, it's almost like a pop song, but it's so dark and gloomy. It's so depressing to listen to that it's almost like it almost sounds like black metal, like in the like how heavy it sounds. It's insane. So I always just love the overall tone and aesthetic of Dirt. It's great, and especially Wood is just the most perfect closure any album could have. Like, is there a better closure than Wood? Can you can you name me that closure? I'm not sure you can. So yeah, Wood is, in my opinion, the great. Well, yeah, I know one close, two closures that are better than no Wood, but in metal, as far as metal comes, it's pretty much the best if you consider Alice in Chains metal. I do, so yeah, there you go. It's my favorite metal closure of all time, I should say. Number 9 is Lateralis by Tool. I was kind of considering, I was kind of going back and forth with my favorite Tool song. I was like, Eulogy, Ride Into, Vicarious, what else? So many songs, like I can go on, but Lateralis is my favorite because it's just this long 9 minute long ass song that has basically all the layers. It has all the basses, all the riffs, all the great vocals from Main James Keenan, and just those riffs. Those riffs, and when it goes back again into those primal grooves, then it comes into that fucking guitar solo section with Adam Jones, when it sounds like psychedelic tones are blending into each other. I'm like, fuck. I was not aware that metal could sound like that. That's insane. So that's arguably the best sounding metal record I've ever heard in my life. Like, I was just listening to Tool, and I'm always like, yeah, that's great. That's fucking great. Like with Anima and especially Lateralis, like the sounds of that record are just insane to me. It's insane, the bootleg, because they don't actually press it or like new versions. So got a bootleg, which was expensive as fuck. But yeah, Tool all the way, right? Yeah, but I mean it's Lateralis. Like I don't give a fuck about the Fibonacci sequence. Like Maynard James Keenan would say to you, you're an insufferable fan. And yeah, I mean, if he calls me insufferable, I wouldn't disagree with him. I'm kind of an insufferable cunt hat, but But yeah, I mean, I just love Tool, you know. I'm not really obsessed with them, maybe like I used to. Like when you first get into Tool, you get that kind of feeling like, oh, this is the perfect band to me. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, Tool's fucking cool. So why would I obsess? Because they're just there, right? They're not going anywhere. So I'm like, fuck, that's alright. So this is quite alright to me. Ninth favorite song ever. Yeah, it's quite alright, right? So yeah, should be quite alright since it's in the top 10. So there you go. Number 8 is Sing of Me, I'm Dying of Thirst by Kendrick Lamar. And this is essentially, I think, yeah, this is my highest rated hip hop song because this is just a storytelling song about, you know, I believe Kendrick is, I believe, turning 80s or something, or that's what I'm getting out of it. If I'm wrong, then correct me. But he's like, yeah, you know, sing of me, I'm dying of thirst because these boys are not religious or something, and you know, eventually they have to turn to Christ because Jesus has the holy water that you have to drink, otherwise your bitch ass is gonna drown out. So this old ass lady at the end is like, "Oh, you must be hurting. Oh, you must be thirsty. You need water, holy water." I'm like, yeah, this bitch is fucking crazy, but welcome to religion, motherfucker. But yeah, I mean, the storytelling on it, of it, you know, before that happens at the ending, then you basically just get this 10-minute dialogue with this conversation with Kendrick Lamar where it's just spitting out his life, just his life story, just everything that he's fought for so far. And it just really sounds like he's bleeding out his pen on his heart, like bleeding out his heart on his pen to write out this fucking masterpiece. Like it's really such a inspiring song that if you listen to this and you're not inspired by it or something, or you're not moved in some way, you might not have a soul or something. Like it's incredible. It's incredible how deep and how just fascinating all the soundscapes on the song are. It's truly incredible. Like if progressive hip hop was a term, this song would be it. Like this is such an anthem for sure. Number 7, my favorite band, Opeth and the Drapery Falls. This is my favorite song from them because I love the kind of acoustic interludes, the intro that it does. Then it gets a bit more progressive, sounds a bit shoegazy. It's very relaxing in the first 3 or 4 minutes, and then like at the last few minutes, Michael's like screaming his fucking ears out, just screaming it out, and he's just like, yeah, just putting everything out there. I'm like, wow. I'm just impressed. I'm just really fascinated with his vocals. And yeah, I mean, Opeth is just one of those bands where I'm like, this is a perfect band. Like again, how can you not like that? And that there are some people that are just like, yeah, fuck Opeth because I don't want this shit where they're like, oh, they're happy one moment and they're quiet the other. I'm like, yeah, that keeps it fun, that keeps it engaging and refreshing to listen to them. Like, why wouldn't you want that? Like, do you just want like one-dimensional music like Cannibal Corpse or ACDC? Like there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm like, there's just one sound. They just do one thing, and I'm like, Obed is just so much. They do so much different shit. Like, why wouldn't you like that? It's amazing. Like, I just don't understand how you cannot like Obed. Like, they're perfect in my opinion. And especially this song where it's quiet, moody, and then he just screams your fucking ears out, and then after that it's quiet again, and I'm like, what? How can one band do that? Like, that's amazing. Like, I think arguably Michael Eckerfeld wrote this entire album with Steven Wilson, I believe. Like, I never really knew any other songwriter in Opeth, so I'm like, yeah, he is Opeth, right? So if there are other dudes that write for him, cool, let me know. If not, then yeah, Michael Eckerfeld is still great, so that is amazing. My lungs are not so amazing anymore, so I have to round this out. DJ Shadow is the next one, number 6, which is Long Stem. Long Stem by DJ Shadow, which is essentially the most perfect instrumental hip hop song. This is like prog hip hop instrumental perfection. This is just the absolute peak of the genre, I would say. And just, in my opinion, the greatest thing I've ever heard in this instrumental basis. Just the way it opens up with this, I would almost say like tango kind of way, like this very Spanish influence kind of guitar. I would say it's just very pretty sound, very pretty tone. I know he didn't play that, but he like sampled like a like Eastern sounding guitar sound on there, like acoustic. It's very pretty, and then you have these drum beats that start up, and then it just goes all out ape shit on the drums. And then eventually there's like this choir coming. There's like do 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 do, you know, it goes very high in the mix. And I can't replicate it anymore because my voice is gone. But yeah, it's just very all over the place. Almost sounds like a classical piece with how many sections it has. And I'm just amazed by just how much layers it has. It's just truly stunning. So I can't recommend that enough. It's truly an amazing song. And yeah, my favorite, probably my favorite hip hop related song ever. You know, if you don't consider Kanye and Kendrick, then DJ Shadow is probably has the best moment in this hip hop style, in instrumental hip hop. Next song, I was very passionate about this in my underrated bands. Spoiler, this is Television by Manson. This is basically this dude that croons out for 7 minutes, and there are just some very like minimal guitars in here, very primal, but also very artsy, progressive, psychedelic, and this dude that just croons over that. I'm like, fuck, this is beautiful. I'm just obsessed with how beautiful and how pretty the mixes on there. It's a really stunning mix. I'm like, wow. I was not aware that music could sound that emotional. They're kind of like most people would say, oh, this is on the same quality of Radiohead. Like one critic I saw on Radio Music said that. I'm like, yeah, this band shits all over Radiohead. I'm like, fuck Radiohead. Um, yeah, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this actually has like passion. It has a great voice, you know, because I don't like Tom York as a singer. But I love this dude. I'm like, wow, he has so much passion and emotion in his voice, and it's so warm and cheerful. Like, why this Radiohead become the big band? Like, this sounds 1 million times better. It sounds so much more happy and anthemic. I'm like, wow, it sounds so much better. Like, fuck. Like, I'm really sad. Like, it's kind of upsetting, like how underrated this is. But that's how great it is. I think it's the most underrated album I've ever heard in my life because no one ever talks about Six by Manson. I'm like, fuck, that's such a good album. It's amazing. It's 5 stars, like easy. And people don't even know it. I'm like, how can I not know this? This is amazing. This is easily the best thing that came out of Britpop, if you want to call this Britpop. But yeah, it's amazing. I'm like, what? Manson is just the greatest band in my opinion, or like the greatest sounding emotional band, I would say. So if you like that kind of Britpop sound, then this is the kind of the milestone, the crowning achievement of that entire genre. If you want to still label it that, because the Gray Lantern, I believe, was the Attack of the Gray Lantern was labeled as Britpop, which is the first album. So I'm like, yeah, this can as well, right? And if not, it's still a great album on itself. So fuck genres altogether. That's what makes this album say to me. Like fuck albums altogether. Just enjoy this one. It's just great. Number 4, I'm almost there. Fuck. Yeah, this title is very accurate right now. Sleep. Yeah, I want to fucking sleep. Slow dive. Sleep. And I originally didn't even have the song on the list. I kind of forgot it. And then I kind of re-listened to it again, and those riffs came in, and Rachel Goswell sung over it with her fucking gorgeous voice, and I was like, I just kind of instantly fell in love with her again. Like I had a huge crush on her. I'm a huge fucking sim for Rachel Goswell. Like, look at that woman. Like, just go to YouTube and well, I think they're still in my history because I still recently listened to it. Right to it's kind of been a while, I suppose. Slow Dive Sleep. Well, at least it's still in my search history. I can't really play it because Slow Dive would probably copyright my ass. But yeah, I mean, just look at this woman. Just fucking like you can't see it because the lighting is shit. Maybe if I have like a bigger picture of it, I'll give this one. I kind of don't like that photo. It's remastered as well. Yeah, I'm not gonna show it because I thought it was ugly as fuck. Um, but I mean, you can't even see her. Oh, it's so sad. I mean, this woman is perfect. Like, you can't even see it, but I'm gonna link it there. Rachel Goswell, her voice, her performance on that song, just the band as well, just playing their fucking ass off, playing that one particular riff into the ground with that melody, with those, with those layers. I'm like, if love had a sound, it would be that. Like that's the sound of love right there. Like if I hear that song, I'm just in love. I'm just in love with whoever the fuck put that together, which is most likely Rage Goswell on Slow Dive. So that just makes me fall in love with the whole band again, especially with Rachel Goswell because I mean, look at that woman. Fuck, like I don't want to simp. It's kind of cringe, but look at her. Look at Rachel Goswell. She is perfection. So because of that, because of the soundscape, because of her voice, because of the performance of the band, just everything about it. It sounds like a beautiful ghost just whispers lullabies into your ear with this shoegaze layer on top of it. And this is arguably the easiest shoegaze band to get into, but I wouldn't recommend Sleep because Sleep is a fucking depressing ass song. It's very, very grim to listen to. It's very daunting on your soul. But like you can see with me, it's an emotion that you kind of have to be ready to. It's an acquired taste, I would say, and it's a very moody song. But if you're into that mood, and when it hits the mood, then it's arguably the greatest song I've ever heard in my life. Like that's how good Sleep is, not the band, but the song. Sleep is boring, in my opinion. The actual activity and the band, but the song Sleep by Slow Dive is arguably the greatest song ever made, in my opinion. It's just not number one because I do have to be in that mindset to really be into it. But if I am into that really depressing, quiet, moody tone in that atmosphere, then this is arguably my all-time favorite song. So it could also be number one, depending on my mood on that day. But there you go. I'm just a huge fucking Rachel Goswell simp. Sue me. Number three is Falling Snow by Agalog. This is essentially my favorite. Yeah, this is the highest rated metal song that I have on here because this song is perfect. This is a perfect kind of post metal, black metal song, and it starts out heavy. The drums are pummeling. It's heavy. It's very atmospheric. It's catchy and thematic, and the vocals, like the screechy kind of black metal vocals, are also really great. I think nowadays it's more considered a post metal album, but it also just sounds black metal. So best of both worlds, right? I just love the overall aesthetic, the soundscapes of this record, and especially when you get near the ending of it, when you get into those pummeling riffs towards the end, and it picks up the speed, and it sounds like you're rolling off Mount Everest or some shit, or like running for your life to not get caught in a snowstorm. Like it sounds absolutely huge, and I love the fuck out of them for that. And I always just appreciated this ever since I first heard it, and it's always kind of been a favorite ever since. So my all-time favorite metal song, it used to be my all-time favorite album, but I love Bloodbirds, by the way. Bloodbirds is also amazing. Could have made it, but I wanted to have one song per artist, and I love Bloodbird. Like I said, Limbs is great. Falling Snow is my third all-time favorite song. But the only song that I think that just sucks is The Grain, like the last song, which is just like weird, ambient, noisy crap. I'm like, yeah, if you ended it with Ashes Against the Grain 2, Bloodbirds, it would have been a perfect album. So if that was the case, it started with Limbs, you had Falling Snow, and Fire Above, Ice Below, I believe, and Bloodbirds as the closer. If that was the case, this was a perfect album, and it could have been my all-time favorite album. It's my third favorite song, so it's still really close. But yeah, that they just kind of fumbled it there, but still probably the closest metal album to perfection that I've ever heard in my life. So still counts for something, right? So amazing band, amazing album. Can't praise them enough. Agalok is, in my opinion, probably still the greatest metal band ever. Maybe Opeth, maybe Agalok. One of those two. Opeth probably has the better discography. Agalok probably has the best metal highs, if that makes sense. So they're both pretty neck and neck for me. Great. My second favorite song ever made, which was a pretty difficult decision because I'm fucking tired. I can't almost talk anymore. I really want to drink something, but I don't want to go yet. But my second favorite song, which I kind of recently discovered was an all-time favorite, but I just kept listening to it, and after that song was over, I was like, fuck, I want to hear the whole album again. And when a final song can do that to you, you know you have an amazing banger on your hands, which is the song Encoder by Pendulum. And this song is so good to me because I kind of just listened to it in the dark while I was walking through some train tracks, and I was like, "Fuck, man!" Like my world was just like on its head, on the side, because I was just so inspired by it, and I love it even more now because I recently discovered it with a Steingate anime music video. I haven't really mentioned those in a while, haven't I? I guess the AMVs weren't that heavy, but yeah, I just really love the sounds of it, and especially when I found that Steingate AMV, which, by the way, is like probably my favorite anime ever. It's like right there to me, so it's like just an easy favorite to point out, but it's also just an amazing show. And when you match that with arguably my all-time favorite song, I was like, this is love made. This is just perfection. Like Pendulum is this weird, or this kind of like this upbeat drum and bass band that just goes all out, and I love them for that. And I just think that they make amazing soundscapes. They just make amazing kind of sounds, like drum and bass, like liquid drum and bass. So it's kind of dancey, it's upbeat. It sounds like dubstep. Like they arguably created that modern dubstep sound. And this is probably the closest thing to dubstep that I would like, which is kind of insane to say since it is my second all-time favorite song. But yeah, dubstep done right, it really can be a life-changing experience to me, and I just love this so much because it's very moody at the beginning. It has these very like easygoing soundscapes, and then it picks up steam. It gets heavier. It gets catchier. It gets more dancey, and then eventually these fucking guitars come in, and the whole song just like collides together. And I'm like, it's just an actual eargasm to hear. Like I can't say that word enough, but it's just an actual eargasm to just hear that outro and just hear them build up that outro to hear. To just experience that. It's just incredible. Like I can't explain how the song makes me feel. It's just absolutely insane. This could arguably be my all-time favorite song, but it's like only 4 or 5 minutes long, so I can only enjoy so much of it. And this next two-parter is like, I believe, 24 minutes long. So This also might arguably the longest segue between songs. I think that Dream Theater still had like the longest song on there with Octavarium. But yeah, this is my all-time favorite song. Encoder might take it someday because Encoder really hit me like deep here, and I heard it like a billion times. I'm like, fuck, I'm still not tired of it. I still want to go back and hear it. So that just indicates that it's just my favorite, like are going to be my favorite song ever. But still my current favorite song. That especially when you hear it in the album format and when you go to it again and you build that suspension up for yourself and you get to these two songs, it's just the best hit of techno that you can ever ask for, which is of course Somewhere Out There, part 1 and 2 by Orbital. And I couldn't really pick apart because part 1 sounds sonically the best to me, but part 2 just spirals out in the most beautiful way ever. So you kind of need them both to get the full effect. And that's also just how the album ends. So it has a perfect album opener. It has perfect like midway section that I also just love to play, like the Butter, that song. And then the outro sequence of Somewhere Out There part 1 and 2. That's how the album ends, and that's just the best shit ever. So I'm like, yeah, it starts great, it has a great middle section, and in my opinion, the outro of Insights by Orbital is the greatest song, the greatest songs I've ever heard in my life, especially Somewhere Out There Part 1, but Part 2, it works the greatest in an album compilation, so it gives me the highest high. Somewhere Out There Part 1 sounds the best, so they're both just the best in my opinion in that experience. So there you go. That is my top 100 favorite songs. That was 3.5 hours long. I'm really fucking tired right now, so I have to work tomorrow, so I'm gonna fucking rest. I'm gonna do what Rachel Goswell wrote it us to do, wrote it her audience to do, is sleep. I'm gonna fucking sleep. So thank you Rachel Goswell, thank you Orbital, thank you Pendulum for just making this amazing music. I'm forever grateful, or like Björk would say, grapefruit. Good night.